Okay, Polight, the first question I have for you, my brother, and I know y'all respect each other, but I want y'all to keep it as real as you can. Brother Divine always deals with unity. Brother Divine, if you have any issue with polite information, humbly present that to him. Don't be afraid, don't be intimidated of the brother. I'm just saying, don't be intimidated of the brother.
I'm good.
You know, I think you can hold your own weight.
Guy right here.
Now, for you, Brother Polight, let me ask you this question, brother. After listening to Brother DivineProspect, do you still think and feel that the Bible is the white man's book and was written by the white man?
Those are some interesting questions. When Divine was speaking, he made that book his book through his interpolation of the events that was taking place and through his linguistic prowess. He's well established and well learned. So that could never take away from the brother. Do I feel the white man wrote this book? That's a very tricky question, and I'm going to tell you why it's a tricky question. It depends on what book or which book you're talking about exactly, because even Bible in itself alludes to several books. So that being the case, I say that the book is in question today, and it's clearly in question today because of what it's producing. All right, so it's in question today because of what it's producing. One. And two, I don't believe that the people that are reading from the Bible are considering the amount of research they have to do outside of the Bible in order for them to establish the idea that it's theirs again. Now, I would make concessions to Brother Divine because he has gone out his way to do comparative studies on primary sources that subscribe to the same ideology. And that being the case, then it becomes a different type of conversation. When I'm talking about most of my Hebrew Israelite brothers, I would have to say that what they are talking about comes from the white man. I have to tell you that's hands down. It comes from the white man. When a person goes out their way to try to get the original papyrus in their hands or try to read the stellars or actually read the stellars and start putting ideas together, now we're talking more about interpretation. Now we're talking more about interpolation than anything else, and that I can never take from somebody.
So did I hear you say the book is still a white man's book?
He pretty much explained it.
Present day,
yeah.
What most people, the perspective most people are coming from, I stand on that Bible's the white man's book. Until someone starts doing certain field research or getting certain primaries, then I have to address them differently. So what I want you to understand is, depending on who I'm talking to, I don't double talk, but depending on who I'm talking to, there has to be a certain level of respect for another person's scholarship. So you may not get the same type of conversation from me towards my brother here that I may have to give to other brothers. It depends who I'm talking to, because at length, the level of research that he does to come to the conclusions he comes up with, it has to be respected because he's citing where he's getting the information from, and those are actual relevant sources in this particular case based on what he just finished teaching. It was linguistic, one, and two, he was establishing where to get the ideas from. So now I know you're talking about actual people that actually wrote something in particular. I can deal with that. When I'm talking to someone who's just holding that book in their hand, at that particular point, you may tell me in essence it's coming from certain indigenous people, but if you can't showcase that in your deliberation, then it stands to reason that you have a European perspective of indigenous culture, and in that regard, I would say it's a white man's book, because that is the intent, and that is the conspiracy that was driven to take us out of our original minds. So I hope you understand what I'm saying.
All right, let Brother Divine answer on that.
And what I would say is that I think Polight deliberated that very well. And this is one thing that I want to bring to the table. One thing I have to note is that I never had a master teacher, like my brother was gifted and blessed to have. I never had a mentor. I was never groomed in the studies that I'm doing. So everything I'm doing is independent of somebody influencing my research, somebody influencing my work. So I came a long way. You know, I became conscious in 2008. Then I started dealing with the Christian world in 2009. I exited out of that in 2012. In 2012 was really, I started to go hard in regards to the black conscious community. And I started to see that a lot of things I was believing in the Christian church did not line up with indigenous people. So I had to do some more deep research. And I said, let me get to a lot of the manuscripts. Let me do research, you know, like in Israel and look at documents and stuff like that. I have microfiches of all these manuscripts that I speak about. So I sift through them. You know what I'm saying? So when you have a person that is just taking the book without doing this extensive studies, because when you bring up, like for example, Reggie brought up loan words, right? And me and Reggie had a great build on that. When you don't understand at what point in time the text was redacted, you can't account for these loan words, right? And remember, a lot of loan words were utilized when trade occurred, when cultures intermingled with one another. So if you cannot define where these words came from in its historical context by doing deductive analysis, comparative studies, then it shows the reason that what you're giving is something that was spoon-fed you and you're just regurgitating what was spoon-fed to you, right? And then it becomes a part of you. But when somebody asks you to do some scholarly research to break everything down that's in there and you have difficulty, then it becomes a problem. Now, in regards to it being whether it's a white man's book or black man's book, the English translation, obviously, from my perspective, is a white man's book. Especially these newer Bibles that's out today is being done by white people, white scholars.
Hip-hop Bibles.
It behooves us, or we're obliged to go beyond them. And like Polight mentioned, go to the primaries to discern whether or not if what they're giving us is the true substance or if it's not. And through my studies, I see they have not been giving us the true substance. So now you have a lot of people who have malnutrition in regards to information. And now you can tell because you can see a lot of inconsistencies in their train of thought and in their argumentation. I've done formal debates a lot in the past. So I understand that the best way to look for formal debates is look for logical fallacies, and that's the inconsistencies in your opponent's argument. That does not necessarily mean that your opponent has a weak argument. It just means that he has so many holes in it. It's because he has not even done a lot of extensive study, or he can't answer why a lot. If you want to know somebody understands something, don't ask them who, where, what, how. Ask them why. Why will show you if they have a complete understanding, if they can interpret that understanding back to you. Now, one thing I want to show, because Polight's my man here, and just so you know I do primary research, I have a book right here called The Teacher's Guide to the Nuwaubian Language, right? This is from Dr. Malachi Z. York. The reason why I'm using that is because if you look at the individuals that is depicted in his Nuwapic book, you'll see that all the prophets that he had spoken about when he was doing a lot of his teachings, I have so much Malachi Z. York work because in order for you to be a great teacher, you have to teach unbiasedly and objectively from your opponent's perspective like it's your own. And until you can do that, you can never present objective scholarship. So in reading this book, I see that Malachi Z. York, I don't know if you can see it, if you can zoom in, but Malachi Z. York, he actually depicted all of the prophets as being black. Now, why is this? Because he had an understanding similar to what Dr. Ben had to understand, is that indigenous people created the system, and when invasion occurred, things started to change. The way Malachi Z. York was able to get through that is because he did a lot of cultural analysis on language, because he was dealing with the Hebrew Israelites, he dealt with Arabic in the Muslim world, he dealt with the Kemetic side. So when you're able to see each one of these elements and put it in its proper perspective, things start to make sense to you. So was it written from an indigenous perspective, from a Semitic mindset, and not abstract from a Hellenistic? Of course it was. But until you can prove that with primary research to people, then it stands to reason that what you're giving them is something that has been given to you to keep you subjected, keep you oppressed, unless you can go beyond your oppressor and give him checks and balances, which I do. I go and I deal with these Jewish scholars, I deal with these scholars and professors in universities, and what I do is that I bring information to them that is not orthodox, that they have to deal with, right? That they don't teach within a curriculum. Me, I'm a college dropout. I dropped out of college 2 years of doing John Jay College forensic psychology. I dropped out because I was too outside the box, and it showed in my work. And one of the professors that told me, he said, listen, the stuff you're doing is good, but it doesn't line up with the curriculum because you're thinking too much outside the box. And I was like, damn. And this is the system that we're supposed to be putting our children through. You understand what I'm saying? And then from there, I was like, listen, you know what? The best thing to do, if you can, is to homeschool, or if they do go to school, have some kind of system of filtration to give them our perspective on things so that our children don't grow up and they become whitewashed by what society is giving them. So I believe, from my research, that the Bible was not written by white people. Again, that's a very general term. I believe it was written by indigenous colored people, right? Because when you look at the different mindsets in regards to text, by looking at literature from different languages, you can tell the fingerprint of something that's done by Aboriginal, indigenous people, and something that's been done by people who are oppressors, who came to take away the substance, the science, the culture, and give back the religion. Oh, you want to say anything?
Yeah. And I love everything he said. What I want to reinforce as well is the fact that when I say that Bibles is the white man's book, which is normally what I say, not written, say normally white man's book, because we're not going to play games, say, yeah, he wrote that book as far as the copyright is concerned in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's common sense who's distributing the book, so I never want to go there. What I mean is that which we're calling the Bible, whether you're talking about the 66 books of King James, the 72 books, Catholic Church, and all the other books that the Bible itself mentions that is not inside the book, you know, namely the Book of Wars and I think Jasper or something like that. You know, so when I say Bible and white man, I mean the people that were in control of publishing, one, the people that are in control of literacy, two. We talking about its inception and its introduction to us as the Bible. You understand what I'm saying? Because if we're talking about indigenous people, I don't think they had that compilation of books put in that order, in that sequence. So when I say that the Bible is a product of the white man's agenda and conspiracy, I say that because the way it's presented to us, I very much doubt, and I haven't been presented a rendition of the same as far as order and sequence of those books are concerned from indigenous peoples. So it's a compilation of books for whatever purpose to be presented to another group of people, particularly in this case the masses.
Yeah.
And with that, then I start to consider why were certain books omitted, under whose discretion, why they felt it sufficed to take those books out, and why they deemed it necessary for us, whether we say black people in general or the laity at large, why did they feel it sufficed for us to read that combination of books as opposed to all the other books that they did have accessible when it was presented to them, but never disregarding the fact that this compilation of books wasn't put in that sequence or even together if we're going to talk about the indigenous peoples that we can see where the ideas were grafted from.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that also. One thing that I noticed by being involved in a Hebrew Israelite community, because I consider myself a Hebrew Israelite, but I use the ideology to fix the social ills in the community. So I'm not super religious. People say, oh brother, you ain't got a kippah on, you ain't got no fringes on. I do that when I go into the temples to teach. But outside, I'm a plainclothes Hebrew because I don't want that to turn people off, because I extract from the text an ideology that we can put into practical use to fix the economic ills or political ills or social ills of our people. And it's not just limited to people who subscribe to what I believe. You know what I'm saying? This is why I wear what I have on, because I believe that all of us can come together with our different ideologies. We can band under red, black, and green, and we can use this as a front so that way we can mobilize our people as a nation, and then once we're fully established, then we can get in our little tribes and have our different disagreements. But until then, we have to unite and build so that way we can make a change. To add on to what Polight said, and I want to let the public know, I am constructing an indigenous Bible from a Hebrew Israelite perspective because it doesn't exist, right?
That's right.
So what I'm hearing by a lot of our Kemetic brothers and even brothers in the Hebrew Israelite community, they say, oh, you know, every time we refer to the Bible, it's going back to a white man's publishing company. It's going back to the way that the white Jews taught you. So what I'm doing through my studies is I'm crafting a Bible. Again, it's going to include a lot of the taken out books, and it's going to involve a lot of textual criticisms to get back to the original pre-exilic Hebrew tongue, as opposed to things that was changed later on when they went into Babylonian captivity, Persian captivity, Grecian captivity, Roman captivity. And I'm trying to get it back to as close as I can to its pristine state that was written by indigenous people, and preface it so people can understand the difference between Semitic thought and Hellenistic thought. So we have, as Hebrew Israelites, we have to put out more published works, because when we do this, then we can get more respect, not just from academia, but from our Kemetic brothers, and they can take us seriously, because now they know that what we're reciting is not something that we remembered and regurgitating, but we have actually done the field research, the primaries, and at the same time, we as black people have produced something to give to our kids.
That's right.
Because we published it, we authored it, we redacted it, and we don't have to keep referring them to books that the white man has published that he can go get from their libraries. But no, the white public at large has to come to us and see what we're doing, because now we will have the leverage because we're producing our own material. And this is what I want to start. And the Hebrew Israelite community, I have a lot of brothers that sign up to assist and to help with it. So this should be it's going to take some time, maybe about 5 years, because this is a lot of work, man. And there's a lot of filibusters that are coming to us when we try to go to Demona in Israel, we try to go to the Tel Aviv, we try to go physically there to Ethiopia. A lot of these churches are exclusive, they're keeping us out. There's information that they're saying that they want to give us, but for political reasons they can't give us. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to create a system here, or economy here, so we can do commerce with them. So that way we say, hey, you know what? We have a system where we have equity in the stocks that we have securitized here. We can use this as a way to trade with you guys, bond that is free of debt. And by giving them this to enhance their economy, in return, can you give us this information? So there's ways that you can circumvent any situation, so that way you can get that what you need, so you can build your people here indigenously in America and be able to put out publishing that can compete and even overcome what we're getting in white academia.
All right, brother, this question is for both of you. What don't you like about Kemet? Who want to answer that first? What don't you like about ancient Kemet?
That's interesting.
And I suppose he's going to get a what don't he like about the Hebrew Israelites. It's a tough task to answer this question. What I would say, because I was going to digress and say the Kemetic community, but I understand the question you asked. Kemet, I'm believing you're talking about antiquity, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to make sure, because the easy route would have been today. But what I don't like about Kemet, what I would say is it's hard to say in the latter stages, omitting some of the influence of foreigners. That's what, if there's a shortcoming in Kemet that makes Kemet lose favor with myself, it would be the inability to erase or override some of what took place during the cultural diffusion as it relates to when they was invaded. Sometimes some of the folklore of the foreigners still is being disseminated even after the foreigners leave. And now it implores or warrants heavier research to understand what took place. And that'd be the main thing, because what you'll find is that after a while, like black people here in America, you might start adapting things that were not common to your culture. And it can run so consistent for so long that you might get the impression that the people were a way that really doesn't speak to the whole. And that's what I don't like about it. Like, for instance, we look at black people here in America, and there's certainly a number of generalizations made about us in America, many of which doesn't speak to each brother and sister. Unfortunately, because of media, right? And every culture has a form of media or publicity, or that which helps them showcase what they have to offer. If we don't make a more expedient effort to erase or address where people have imposed or infringed upon our rights in our culture, then we leave room for major generalizations to take place later on in the future, big time mistakes to take place in the future as far as how we perceive the people. And the reason why I have this issue with Kemet is because I live in present day now, and now we have to express to people that's not Kemet at large. And you may say, man, but that's not a real ill that you're talking about. But it really is a large ill, because when you look at it, the Nisu can take the time out and make 18 statues of himself. You see what I'm saying? But not just get rid of the impression of the previous foreigners that came in and introduced information that the common nerd or the laity would not subscribe to. So the biggest issue that I would have with Kemet is that it's one of the things I love the most about it, and it's one of the things that I hate. I love the arrogance. I love the black pride. That's how I look at it. But pride can be a great shortcoming. You understand what I'm saying? So in one instance, like my man Ramses, or Rob Mansu, or you see that he'll have, you can't go in the temple without seeing 18 statues of himself, right? And his name all over the place. And he might even knock out other Nisu's names and
stamp his joint on there.
And not only stamp his joint in, deeper into the walls. So whatever he's doing to other people can't be done to him.
Don't like about
You get what I'm saying? In short, if I had to pick something that would have me at grievance, I would say perhaps my largest or my greatest grievance would be that on many occasions we could see how the Nisu may glorify themselves, but I don't see the same impetus for establishing or reinforcing the immediate cultural paradigm that they subscribe to. And I say that because in the interim of different rulers coming in and out, there's things that may be picked up or adopted to the researcher that maybe the people are like, look, we just came out of war, we just chased the Hyksos out of here, we put them up north. So the people know what it is because they live in that time. You dig what I'm saying? But all we know is what everybody leaves as far as recordation is concerned. So to be honest, that's something that can be frustrating, because now I have to make sure I pick up satellite information and do a more profound perusal that I may not have had to do had we had 10 less statues and a little bit more shit up on the wall. So that's what I'm saying. So and that's just being honest. So we want to know what you don't like about Kemet. Then we want to know what you don't like about
Israel. Yeah, we're gonna go back and forth. Alright, so in regards to ancient Kemet, I study the Kemetic culture. I look through the Medunetia so I can read the stelas, the wall reliefs. Getting into hieratic now, the Monic is a little easier to pick up, especially if you understand the Coptic. But the point that I'm making is that I go to the primaries, right? You're gonna get a lot of commentaries when people write books about Kemet, and that's great. But you got to go to the primaries themselves and decipher it to understand the mindset of the people that wrote it. So what I personally don't like, and I think I voiced it before, and it's nothing bad, it's just the Romanticism, right? One thing that I did appreciate about Akhenaten, right, and we all familiar with Akhenaten and his relocation to Amarna, is that he understood that the priesthood was getting too powerful, and it was calling too much shots. So when he created this city called Amarna, where he left the traditional nomes of ancient Kemet and created this city called Amarna, we can get a lot of information on the correspondence between him and the Semitic world through the Amarna letters. I have several books I'm probably going to show at the debate in regards to Akhenaten. But you'll see that the average citizen was only 2 or 3 notches away from the priesthood, from nobility, and even the Nisu. So he did something revolutionary for his time because he wanted the information to go to the masses, you see? He wanted to build the city around the people. So when we have a system, an ancient Kemet, where 1%, 1 to maybe 5% the most of the population were literate. Now, this is not to say they didn't have any university or schools. Of course they did. We know ancient Kemet is known for that. But this was not all the population. All the population was not privy to that because they had trades. And based on the location of the land that you're on, things had to operate. And if my father was a carpenter, and then I went to a university to be a let's say a priest or something like that, that's one less carpenter that we have in the field. So you got to understand that a lot of the information was kept from the masses, right? To the point where the masses actually did an outcry and rebel. This is when you had the grave robbings of the suits and the pyramids. The people at the time, they're just like, yo, we're not going to take it no more. We want what you guys got. And this is how we got the trickle-down effect of the pyramid text to the coffin text. Because in the pyramid text, the Old Kingdom, that was only for the suits and their servants. Later on, when the people started to have an outcry, we get to the Middle Kingdom now, the Nasuts and the priests or the nobility are listening to the people and say, okay, now we're going to let y'all have an opportunity to make it into Duat and to pass through and to be able and to make it to Tuat. So my ultimate issue is just the sensationalism, the hubris, like Brother Polight mentioned. But if you was to skim all of that, like you know, when you're doing cheese, you skim the cheese off, what you call it, off to the top, the curd off the top, you'll see that there's a very, very great system that was established here. A lot of people say there's no statutes, laws, commandments, blah, blah. Well, there's something called the Instruction of Mary Cara, and this is when you had one Nasut that was training an up-and-coming Nasut, and he was giving them instructions on how to rule the land. Now, where did these instructions come from? See, you have to ask that question. But they had a system there that they were using in order to govern things, right? The difference was the masses didn't have this information. It was hidden or exclusive for just the Nasut and the nobility. The masses did not have it. You also have prophecies such as the prophecy of Nefertiti. You know, you had different things. If you look at the primaries and read the primaries that they actually had in ancient Kemet that I appreciate, right? It's like Home Neter in regards to the symbol of the club and the quote-unquote flag. Why is it the flag? Because it deals with the wind. Why? Because the wind has an effect on people, but it's unseen, and this is what they thought about nature. Then the home is indicating of the body, and this word together, when you syntax it, means a priest, because the priest was the closest thing to the quote-unquote deified ancestors that they had interfaced with. So they was disseminating this information to the people. They kept great recordation, but the issue was when things were excised, the issue when things were overly embellished, and the things were when the masses were not given all of the hidden secrets to the people is where I had an issue with ancient Kemet. But if you sift through all of that, there's a great culture there. There's a lot of information we can learn. And again, we can employ it without having to abandon our faith system. And this way we can unite and build together. And I think the next question is what we don't like about Israel. But I'm going to let Polight go on that.
All right. What I don't like about Israel, there's a dichotomy to what I don't like. So I'll just keep it on one. I'll keep it more modernized for the most part, because that's really in essence why I'm doing the debate. Though I want to hear about you in antiquity. If I can hear since antiquity, that's you know, that'll do me good. I'll give you both. But for this particular one, because I want people to understand me, because I say this quite often and I don't think it's heard, that I always said I have no problem with my brothers being Hebrew Israelites. I've always said this. What I don't like is the imposition of beliefs and perpetrated as facts, and thereby if one doesn't subscribe to it, one is condemned. I have no problem with a belief system. In fact, I think it's nobody's business to try to separate you from your God. The only time I feel that such an enforcement should take place comes when the idea that I am numb to your belief makes me inferior, or makes me a heathen, makes me an idolater. Now I start feeling away, and I start saying, now we have to talk to you, because everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm okay with that. Everyone's entitled to their interpretation. I'm okay with that. So what I don't like about Israel, which is what they don't understand, because I've always said I've been highly appreciative of the language. I love how the letters in the language correspond with what they call the alphabetical symmetry of light. You can, if you had a spectrum analyzer, you can clearly see that the glyphs weren't just made up from out of the fabric of someone's consciousness. And when we talking about this, we just talking about on a mundane level. It's clear that something was taking place when you look at not just Hebrew, Medu Neter and everything else, but particularly right now I'm talking about Hebrew. It's clear that the letters form shapes that correspond with the shapes after tones are produced. So tones vibrate on certain frequencies, and these frequencies can be measured, and these frequencies that can be measured take on a shape. So whenever someone speaks, that tone takes on a shape, which the cone of the eyes doesn't catch, obviously. When it's actually detailed by a spectrum analyzer, you'll find that the shapes produced in the interim of tones at the end result of someone speaking it all has a correspondence with the actual letters that people were writing in terms of Hebrew. And that to me takes up huge significance for me. And it put me on a quest to start studying Hebrew. You know, and that was the part of Hebrew that really had me going. And that's what really got me. That was the enticing part. The theology I couldn't accept. But there's things embedded in the culture that I just would never reject, because I have to be honest. So even when I talk to my brothers, and no, if it's Hebrew, then we ain't deal with nothing. No, you can't be Hebrew and be African. You see me, I got a whole different issue with the situation. And that's why sometimes even my own people may say, yo, like, oh, you coming with the pseudo stuff because you accepted certain things Hebrew. And I'm like, yo, it's not pseudo. We talking about ancient peoples here. And this is where a lot of people get caught up in the mix when I do the debates. I'm talking about ferreting out the truths. Discerning. What is will? The mental faculty in which one can discern that which is right and that which is from wrong. So knowing right from wrong, that's a mental faculty that we call will. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't deject a Hebrew Israelite for identifying with what they identify as Hebrew culture. I deject the dogma and the romanticism and the spookism, you know, and I'm okay if you believe. But don't enforce your belief on me and then condemn me because you cannot verify that which you're presenting to me. Don't shun me for that. So ultimately, when we're talking about the Israelite community, what I also don't like, and it's about the doctrine. When you study the Bible from the perspective that is taught to us about fearing God, no man can look God in his eye and all this other stuff. We've been punished or put in slavery because of God. The Hebrew Israelites start sounding like, to me, a black woman in an abusive relationship. That's how it makes me feel. It makes me feel like the scriptures is preying on the lower emotions of the people. And I can do without it. I can deal with the Hebrew. And I can deal with a lot of the sciences, the numerical sciences, the gematria. I love that part. My brain is inclined to that information. But once you start telling me that the reason why we are in bondage is because some incorporeal being put us there, and then you tell us, oh, abused woman does this. If she doesn't get out the relationship, she becomes complacent with the abusive relationship. So what an abused woman does, she then contemplates, what is it that I've done wrong to take this abuse from my man? And when someone asks her, why you have this black eye, she says, well, you know, he lost his job. He's just going through a lot right now. But you know, when things get better, you know, he'll be right. So now I start looking at the Israelites like abused black women, because I'm saying, God keep punishing you. He floods you. He makes you eat your own babies. He puts you in bondage for hundreds of years. And the only thing you can conceive is that you have done something wrong to deserve this. But he calls you his elect, or his chosen people. Now, I understand a father may be harder on his children than everybody else. I can deal with that part. But I can only go but so far until I start saying, are we not putting the blame on human nature no more? Are we saying that the reason why we have to endure this abuse is because the one who created us has us going through this abuse, and we can't look him in the eye, and we must fear him at the same time, and we can't question him? Then I start feeling like an abused black woman who's accepted domestic violence. So I am not built to believe the super genius that we call God would even have time to go through or engage in the mundane clauses of us mere mortals. Take the time out, who knows everything, past, present, and future, but then still regrets that he'd even made us. Knows past, present, and future, but still condemns us to hardship in the afterlife. Knows past, present, and future, but still gives us a devil that we figure is more educated than us. So the perspective, as it is taught to us, the perspective of a devil in the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, if the devil was able to beguile Eve and you created everybody, then how are you going to condemn us for that which we did not know and for that which you empowered him to know? So if these are the doctrines that you're feeding me, then I cannot accept it. And for that, I cannot embrace Israel when they teach that part. because I have to teach my children, and it sets the stage for other people to abuse us as well if we accept the psychology behind those type of stories.
Gotcha.
So I don't deal with that.
Now, wow, he said a lot of stuff that I want to touch on, but time is limited. But that was a good build there. First, I'll start off on what I don't like about Israel, and then I'm gonna try to comment on a few things that Polight is saying. So the first thing I would say is that the issue that I have with Israel is the fact that a lot of things changed when they went into captivity, and it's very difficult for people to discern pre-exilic and post-exilic Israel. Post-exilic Israel had a lot of psychological, economical, and political adversity that was imposed upon the people when they went into captivity, and they've been in captivity since the Babylonian period. One thing that Polight had mentioned in regards into, you have a incorporeal being who's a super genius and knows everything, that he allowed the people go into captivity, but you have to also understand that he gave them numerous opportunities to get it right. And that is what's called mercy. Now, the reason why that's important is because if we look into the book of the Celestial Cow in ancient Kemet, we can actually see the same situation happen with Ra. And when he got older, mankind disrespected him and rebelled him. Guess what Ra did? He created Hathor into Sekhmet and used her to go and destroy mankind. Then he felt compassion for mankind. He got her drunk off of wine to bring her back to Hathor. And then after that was the case, he went into the Amduit to create this realm as a means for man to actually pass through the rites of passage, so that way mankind won't be doomed forever. Again, mercy. So when we look at the Hebrew Israelite ideology, a person cannot be strong on you with regards to the text and miss over the mercy part, miss over the grace part, because you always have that, even in law. And Polight is jurisprudent with the law, and so am I. And every time there's a law, there's always a provision or what's called a remedy. You have a remedy in law. You have to find out what that remedy is. Now, it may not be told to you what that remedy is. You can ask, is there a remedy? But then you have to seek it out for yourself. And this is where you do introspective, independent research and say, listen, you know what? This thing is important enough for me that if I'm going to jail, and I know there's a remedy, then we go seek it out. If I'm in a condition where I'm imprisoned, and I know that there's a remedy, what is the remedy to alleviate this burden that I'm carrying? And all of this is actually implemented in the text if you read it from a pre-exilic Hebrew perspective and not from a post-exilic perspective. So when we're looking at comparing proselytization, because that didn't come about until way later. Pre-exilic, there was no proselytization taking place in ancient Hebrew, right? So we didn't have these missionaries going all over the place and converting people to Hebrew. That didn't happen because you had a nation of people that were self-sufficient, and there was no need for that, because in the land that they were in, they believed that was the land of their God, or the owl, or the higher power, and therefore anybody within that region were the ones that were suspect to their belief system. Anybody outside of that, they could care less about, because they had their own system of salvation. And see, this is what I have to point out, because I want to say this to Polight so we can build. You have a lot of Hebrew brothers that say, oh brother, if you don't accept the Most High, you doomed, this going to happen, that happened to you. But what they don't understand is that there's salvation in every culture. Why? Because if you didn't have this premise of salvation within culture, for man to look into himself to see the God essence that was breathed into them, right? Which is very important. This is what I'm saying. If you don't look at other cultures to see the God essence that was breathed into them, you will never understand salvation even from a Hebrew Israelite perspective. What do I mean by that? The Most High dealt with the nations before he called Abraham. He had a priesthood before he called Abraham. He had a system of government that was established before he called Abraham. And if you read Genesis chapter 10, where it talks about the table of nations, you had Japheth, Ham, and Shem. Each one of them understood this system of salvation because sacrifices was given, different statutes and laws, commandments was upheld. You hear where the Most High tells Job, walk uprightly before me. He tells Abraham, walk uprightly before me. He says that Noah, walk uprightly before me. Noah was a perfect and just according to what law? See, there was a system that was already established before it was codified after the Exodus. And we have to examine that system to see, hey, is this inherent in all creation? Because the two things that's in every culture is, number one, awe of creation. When you look at the awe of creation, you can appreciate the power you believe that created it, and this draws you to the Creator. Then you have a system of innate morality that you're born with, right? Listen to this. And these two factors is what allows you to investigate this higher power and use your system to investigate what is necessary for you to go through the rites of passage to come to a point of maturity where you see yourself as being saved from that which have tainted that direction or that Torah or Yareh, and you can get back to your Creator. Now listen to this. If you read the text itself, salvation is understood that other cultures had it. Because the Most High didn't just deal exclusively with Israel, but he dealt also with the other nations. This is why you see prophecies against other nations. Well, what is he accusing them of? Obviously, there's a system of salvation that he has designated to these nations. He chose Israel to be his special or his preferred, but that wasn't his only one, because if it was, we won't have any other nations mentioned in the text. So there is a form of salvation that supersedes and goes beyond the realm of Israel. But those who subscribe to be Israelites, yes, it behooves you to follow statute, laws, and commandments. You're right. And if somebody subscribes to it, yes, it behooves us to do it. But anybody that's outside of our culture, right? The Most High is going to deal with them. How he going to deal with them? Based on a system that was established before proselytization took place. And if you don't understand this, then you're going to be far removed from what the original text was trying to say before it got redacted in a later period. So I'm going to move forward with that.
Yeah, I ain't gonna front. Right? Yeah, that call kind of disturbed me, man.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna front. Man. I know we're gonna keep it rolling, but as if you look at me, you'll see I'm just
I know.
thinking about that wicked shit that went on.
Okay,
it's going on. No, you can leave it on.
Okay, we got it.
But no, you ain't gotta edit.
Okay.
What I want to say is this, though.
Yeah, let's get it, man.
All that sound good coming from both of you, brothers.
Oh shit!
It's like it sound good.
But if your doctrine can't lead your people anywhere,
let's get it.
Then what is it all good for? So I'm gonna ask both of you this question right here. How can you use your doctrine to free your people? I'm gonna let you go first, Brother Divine. How can you use your doctrine to free your people?
Okay. Now this is a very great question. I'm not gonna get too in depth about it because I have a PowerPoint that I have lined up for you in the spring called "Does the Bible Provide Solutions for the Condition of Blacks in America?" And what I do with that is that I extract principles that's in the text and I show how we can practically apply it in our modern day society with some modifications to resolve social ills. For example, the Bible says, "Owe no man nothing," right? You also have Yahushua, or Yahushua, as some colloquially call him. He also said to agree quickly with your adversary. Now, if we understand the legal system, you have what's called conditional acceptance, right? And you have two different ways to respond to a bill collector, to respond to a judge. You can do so rightfully, right? Or you could do so unrighteously, right? Rightfully would be to either pay it, say, listen, you know, I owe it, I'm gonna pay the debt. Or you can do it with conditions and say, you know what, I'll accept this, but under the terms and conditions, you can explain A, B, and C. If you reject it or ignore it, that's dealing shrewdly, and in that case scenario, you have issues. So the Bible has different elements in it teaching you how to deal with your brother. You should not charge usury. So if a brother asks me for $100, right, and he wants to borrow the money, and I say to him, listen, brother, listen, you can have it, but you got to give me $50 back. We understand that that is a system that is an element that's in the text that if we extract and apply it today, we can alleviate a lot of the burdens that we have. We understand when we look at how the IRS system is set up for income tax, that's exactly what they're doing. When you go to the bank, they're charging all of these high interest rates, and the Bible speaks against that. And this is very important when you look at it from a practical element and extract the principle and say, how can I look through the facade of my reality today and employ it so I get the immediate results? So in regards to what I teach, my Hebrew Israelite ideology, I look at it first from a cultural, linguistic, and a historical perspective, which we will denote as being anthropology. First and foremost, to understand the mindset of the people, their migration patterns, their archaeology, all the things that we have to make up their culture, their history, and even the language, which doesn't lie, and then look to see how the element of theology were utilized to get the people behind one common story. Us as blacks in America, we don't have one common story. See, when we read the text, we know when they went into captivity and they had this revolution, right, where they went back to the law, they did so because they had to have a common story, a common history, and a common language to unite the people. This element is in the text. And if we can take that element and find a way to practically apply it today, we can use the same principles to unite us as a people and move forward. So when you ask a question, what is in your doctrine that you can use to liberate black people, look for the elements of the text that you can take it and practically apply. That which you can't, you leave it aside. But that which you can, you pull it, you create a codified system, and you employ it to resolve the social ills in your community. And anybody that follows Kingdom Harbinger Ministry, that's exactly what we do. You know, we offer credit and loan debt cancellation services. Where do we get that from? The principles that we see in the scriptures. Okay? We also naturopathic health service plans to the community so everybody won't be gravitating towards Obamacare. Where did we get that from? The elements are there in the scriptures. Okay? When we deal with housing, low-cost housing, the scriptures tell us how to house one another. And they even tell you when you're in captivity to build houses. Are we teaching carpentry to the people? Yes, we are. And we're using the math that was utilized to create some of the architecture in the text to employ it to create architecture today. We help people get low-cost homes so that way they can refrain from being a part of this system. And we're going to show, when I do my my lecture, how when they went back to rebuild the temple, to rebuild the city, all the different steps that they took to get it accomplished and how we as a black people can utilize it today. And what I'm saying is that this is at the core of my ideology, because this is what I stand on. I believe is that it's a great spiritual system once you first understand the culture, the history, and the language. But if you cannot take your ideology and fix the ills of black people across the board, and not, we're not talking about people that subscribe to what you believe, but just across the board, then it's in vain, because now you can't build, now you can't unify. So I take elements from everything that I study and I incorporate it to my Hebrew Israelite ideology, but I keep that as the base and the core. And if I can't show a person a practical means to resolve the ills from what I'm reading, then it's of no use. So with that, I'm going to give it to Polight, and I think he's going to touch on how the Kemetic element, how we can extract some things from that, from the doctrine of the Kemetic element, since this pertains to the debate, how we can utilize that to fix the social ills of black people.
How can we use your doctrine to free our people?
His doctrine or the Kemetic doctrine?
No, no.
Let's say the Kemetic
yours,
doctrine.
Yeah, say the Kemetic.
Kemetic
He
doctrine.
already got a system, so let's deal with the Kemetic doctrine.
Let's get it. For starters, I have to be careful here with some of what I'm gonna say. But what I want to say is this: law is one of the fortes that I have, and when you study the Nisu, right? When you study the Nisu of Kemet, you understand that they learned that law was more about interpretation than it was about execution. Very important. So for instance, many people may think that acts of incest was perpetrated, when in fact the Nisu were using laws that pertain to inheritance in order to establish themselves on the throne. Whereas it'd be misinterpreted to those who are not studying hard enough, they would conceive that people were conducting incest. I say that, and that's already too much. All right, now I'll move forward. I already said too much on that.
We can use that.
Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut. You know, when we deal with Hatshepsut, we also go to her temple. And when we go to her temple, one thing that we learn is that she has recorded from the left side. First you have Het Heru. All right, there's a temple consecrated to Het Heru at Hatshepsut's mortuary, right? And so that's at the extreme left. Of course, Anubis or Nupu, he's on the extreme right. His temple that was consecrated, or the temple that was consecrated for him. But when you at the extreme left, once you leave Het Heru, or who they call Hador, you then come to find writings about her expeditions, going to different places in Africa, and bringing back all types of things, right? And why is that important? One thing that we pick up from Kemet is recordation. As much as we may complain how some people may have embellished on their stories, right? It's everyone's right to see themselves the way they perceive and write about themselves. However, one thing that we're not falling short of is recordation in Kemet. That's one of their strongest points. And what it did for me, it made me realize that how important it is to write our story before someone else writes it for us. Some of the issues that many other cultures have today is because the inability for them to record, or the manner in which they did their recording, didn't last long enough. So it's not that their history didn't exist. It's more of a argument of silence or argument excellentia, where some people may say, because I have no proof, that's the proof itself. You know, and it's a very weak clause in our argument. And it doesn't contend, I wouldn't say that it means that your history doesn't exist. It just means that it's not relevant until you can produce something tangible. So one of Kemet's strongest points that I love is that they recorded everything. Another thing that I like from Kemet, that we can learn from Kemet, is architecture. Why? I'll give you an example. And the architecture alludes to that which was culturally embedded into the psychology of the people. Their principles of what many would call godship, or what we identify as nature, was always embedded into what they created or what they built. So if you go by Karnak was built, why? Because there was water right there. Okay, and this water alluded to the primordial waters, or to how things started when it first was created. If you go over to the temple where Sobek is revered, that was created because they seen alligators over there, and they knew that alligators had a great deal of fertility. So they created or erected a clinic over there. And anybody that had fertility issues, it was over there, but the alligator represented that, so they consecrated the temple for the alligator. So what do we find here? We find that they had a very introspective viewpoint of nature. They was able to look at nature and present the themes of nature through their architecture.
Right now, what I want to discuss on is, I hear this talk so much about homosexuality in ancient Kemet. Brother Divine,
Yes, sir.
I hear this talk so much about homosexuality going on in ancient Kemet, and most of this is coming from our Hebrew Israelite brothers. Will this be coming out at the debate dealing with homosexuality? The ancient Kemetic people been dealing with homosexuality. Will y'all be showing proof and evidence of it? If so, will this be coming out in at the debate?
That's a good question, but to the wrong person.
No buck dancing, no tap
No,
dance.
we ain't buck dancing because that's not part of anything that I hope to present, right? But
Okay.
it is something that will be touched on at the debate. To what degree, I don't know. You know, the way that we have it set up with my team is that we don't divulge everything because we want to surprise each other when we actually present
right.
information. But I will say that that is a topic that will be addressed. To
Okay,
an
well
extent.
now I know how to ask you the question. Now, by hearing that, I know how to ask you this question a little better. Hearing your response to that answer, I think I can ask you this a little better. Do you believe that there was homosexuality going on in ancient Kemet? And if so, how do you show and prove that in your on your understanding?
Now that's a very loaded question.
Oh, no buck dance, brother.
I know buck dance, and I say loaded because I don't want to give too much that my team is going to disseminate.
All right, I respect that.
But what I will say is that personally myself, I would never, I can't say never, I would refrain from using that in regards to what I see as injudged in ancient Kemet, right? Now, there is a lot of artifacts that imply that. There is some literature that implies that, right? Look at the Chesed Papyrus from the Contenders of Horus and Set, which I have a microfiche of, and I've utilized my Medunature sources to decipher terms for buttocks and phallus and so forth. You'll see that the implication is there, but was that the intention, right? I'm sorry.
I got
The
you.
intention was there, but was that the motive, right? So when you see these things, you have to understand what fertility is, right? And how it's demonstrated in certain cultures. You got to understand how certain cultures viewed certain acts that were lewd and offensive, right? Now, whether it was celebrated or not, I don't know. I wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it was going on and was not recorded. You understand what I'm saying? So to be honest, I don't know. But what I can say is that from my research, it seems that way, but when you actually study it, it's really not that, you know? So that's why I personally don't go that route. Now, would that be something that you can teach your kids? That point, nah. When they got older, okay, maybe you can get into depth, but as children, you wouldn't want them to see that type of stuff or be exposed to that. But as they get older and they are aware of certain implications, such as sex and maturity and homosexuality and different terms, then that's when you divulge that information. So also you got to understand who had the information, who it was geared towards, who was the audience, etc. So in regards to that specifically, like I said, that's a loaded question. I wouldn't use that. And that's not to say it's a weak argument per se. I'm gonna see how my team does with it. But what I will say is that I will deal with more pressing matters with the beefs that I have with ancient Kemet, and I personally wouldn't emphasize that. That's just me, from a scholarly perspective, based on primary research.
All right. No. I don't want to ask you that question because, of course, you on the other side. Yeah. I have another question for you.
He's on the side that's launching attack.
Right. That's why I'm asking you this question because this question is for you when you launching your attack.
Here we
And
go.
maybe you might take the same stance that this brother did,
Let's see.
where you don't want to
He enjoying
give
it.
up too much. Where you don't want to give up too much information, you might prefer to use this at the debate. Dealing with the Exodus story. I know you was really strong on that, and you wanted to put that in the program and deal with this at the debate. And I agree with you, being that this is the final showdown, this must be addressed, dealing with the Exodus story. Because that's all the Hebrews we have. The brothers have beef with them about that, dealing with the Exodus and homosexuality. So, Brother Polight, are you with the Exodus story? Do you agree that there was Hebrews that went into Egypt and became slaves and built the pyramids and stuff like that? This is pertaining to the Exodus story. So let's deal with that right there. What is your take on that? If your argument is strong, you don't care.
Yeah, I love that.
You can go in on
Right.
it because you know that they still don't have enough information to dispute your answer.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna see who's gonna be the strongest one right now.
He passing that
Trying to
Lizzie
get us
bag.
to compete.
See, that's that Lizzie bag. The older brothers give you
That's
the
a good one.
bag.
Here you go. Hold that.
Say, yo, we gonna put all the clothes in there that we boosted.
Oh,
You get out, you
man.
get caught,
Exactly.
you get less time. So this is what I would say. I definitely have a problem with Hebrews that contend that they built the pyramids. I definitely have an issue with that situation. You shouldn't get away with saying things like that unless you verify the information. The Exodus story, I totally disagree with as well. Brother Nasi, he did at the weigh-in bring up a papyrus. I think he misquoted the papyrus, but I'll be fair to him. I think it was just an honest misquote. Salt papyrus or what have you that he pulled up, I think he misquoted it. I hope he brings it up again and says Moses was there and goes through it. I hope so, because I wanted to address it badly when I was sitting down. Like this, if that's what you call it, Moses. So this is the issue that I have with the Exodus story. With Nasi, Abraham existed during the time of Cheops or Khufu. That gives me an issue. That gives me an issue. Because now, because whatever time you tell me that someone existed, I know where I'm at in the calendar, and now all your other events got to line up with it, and the people that you associate yourself with and identify yourself as. You understand what I'm saying? So, once you say that this guy exists during Khufu period, then I know, okay, Nechaket is over here, Zozar. He's in Sakura. I understand when these things were erected and built. So now we have a timeline. But then also, if you also say that the Kemetic date system is off by 800 years, and some people say 400 years. If you're the same person that's going to say it's off by 800 years, who's also the same person that's going to say Abraham existed during Khufu, then the Exodus story starts losing a lot of whatever esteem it might have had if you just left it open for speculation. So we in the lab. I'm definitely in the lab, and I'm taking everything everybody says very serious. And when you commit yourself to a specific point in time where actual people existed, where there's dates and times that corresponds with them, and the infrastructure or the edifices that were erected, now we can actually keep the calendar rolling, and we will hope that the rest of the biblical chronology fits the build. So I have a problem with the Exodus story if that's what if we're going to accept that Abraham existed during the time of Khufu. I have a problem with that. If we make Moses Pharaoh be the Merifata or Ramses II, either way, I'm still going to have an issue with you with that. And I got valid reasons and issues. So I've created a situation where I have several different time markers where I'm trying to figure it out to run it through the test, through logic. Okay, so we use logic, we employ logic to come up with our arguments and come up with our answers. So now that we have commitments to dates and times, and I process us being 800 years off, and I process us being 400 years off, but I also process the times that you say your people existed and when they thrived, it all got to make sense when we get to the event. Because anything that you say that makes sense, that contradicts that which doesn't make sense, then at least atone for it and say I made a mistake when I first said it. That's the cleanest way to get out of it. But if you're going to keep up with those things you committed yourself to, or if another teammate go up there and they drop that real knowledge, you still have to be held accountable for what the other teammate said. We can't accept both. All right, so I don't subscribe to the Exodus story. I don't believe that the Hebrews were in a 400-year slavery or 430-year slavery period
in
Egypt. I don't believe that they created the pyramids, and if they did, I'm looking for a wall that they created at least 2 meters high as Israelites from that point thereafter. I would like to see that, and I would also like them to not claim the likes of non-Israelites when it works to their advantage, but then evade the responsibility of those people and what they've done in history when it works to their disadvantage. So this is going to be a very fun scenario because it's chess. You understand what I'm saying? So it's, and you're dealing with a different type of thinker, and because I believe they have people, particularly one person on the team, I don't know how much information they're using from my brother over here, but if they're working with him, it's going to be chess. You see what I'm saying? If they're working with him.
Now, that was great what Polight said. The good thing is they're not debating me. Now, if they weren't debating me, I'm going to give you dates, times, and all of that. Now, one thing is that, and I mentioned this to Reggie, and I'm going to bring it out. In regards to chronology, there's a fixed chronology for ancient Kemet because most of the world of antiquity is based around the calendrical system that's established in ancient Kemet. So a lot of other events correspond to the calendar system that's established by white Egyptologists. The problem we have with that, and that how we know that there's some difficulty with the chronology, even though it's fixed, is that you have some black scholars that say that the pyramids and the Sphinx is older than what white Egyptologists say. For example, John Henry Clark said in his book, and I have it right here for y'all, he was going through African history, he's saying that the quote-unquote pyramids were 6,000 BC. So now you have black scholars that are saying, no. What they're doing is they're trying to make Egypt younger than Sumeria, and actually the timeline is much older than that. Now we have to deal with the black scholarship. Now, do I sit there with somebody that's black and say, no, you're wrong because white Egyptologists said, no, that's your interpretation. You have facts, you have your primary research, and you came to that conclusion. That's fine. So if Nazi can show, based on what Polight said, and I don't know if Nazi, because me and Nazi didn't really go into detail in regards to the Exodus, but if Nazi says that, then I'm sure Nazi going to have that work for that. But what I will say is that, and I don't know if it's going to be presented, I got that work for the Exodus. Now, what people don't realize is that you have to look at literary devices when you're reading any kind of book. You have what's called amplification, periphrasis, and what's called point of view when you're reading the text or the Bible. When you understand what these literary devices are and you understand how it was utilized for you to create or craft a story.
Hold on, say that part again.
Okay.
When you read in the what?
When you read in the Hebrew text, right? Just like when you read in English. Anytime
you have to learn how it was utilized.
Yeah, there you go. Anytime you read history, literature, you have to look for literary devices so you can understand the methodology that the author is utilizing to tell a story. And in the Hebrew text, you have 3 of them: periphrasis, amplification, and you have what's called point of view. When you understand that amplification is like, okay, I could have just said the story did this, but because I want to enhance the story for the audience so I can rally them behind a political tool so that way we can survive, thrive, and be preserved in captivity, I'm going to add amplification to the story because I got to make it come alive. Then you also have periphrasis, which means that I could have said something simply, but because, again, I'm building a story, I have to give you this momentum before I actually tell you what it is, and then have to give it to you as the audience to sift through the story to find the historical evidence. Point of view is, okay, now I haven't been all into every culture. The Hebrews had an advantage because they was in Samaria and they was also in Kemet, so they have an advantage of understanding how the systems work. You also had that with ancient Kemet too, because a lot of the Nasuks was going through the Levant region. They was dealing with the Semitic cultures. You get the Armana letters and you can read the correspondence with that. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you understand that there's history, that Exodus did occur, and when you understand that what the Bible does is that you superimpose theology onto the history because you're trying to unite the people with a story to empower them. Now, when I can show the facts, sans the theology, it can't be refuted because I have that evidence and I have that work. The problem is I may not be presented at the debate because I didn't want to say nothing at the debate but my brother Polight called me out, so I may say something at the end. I don't know. Polight called me out. But as a friend, this is a friendly sparring session that we're doing because, we just doing it because, me and him got something coming up that we're not going to tell people yet. But anyway, but what I'm saying is that me and him are the youngest people there.
That's right.
We're the youngest presenters there, right? And people don't. And what people don't understand is that we're bringing a different energy that's more vibrant, that's fast paced, and it's like an action movie. And you gotta follow us when we do it. But because I'm conceding to my teammates, and they're the ones that's being heavily marketed, it's their show, and I'm very humble enough to say, you know what, they got it. But what I will say is that when it's my time, I'm gonna give that work. I'm gonna give dates. I'm gonna give archaeological evidence. Anthropological evidence, because when people say the word Hebrew is a misnomer.
That's
right. So when you take the word Hebrew and superimpose it into the past, and now people look for evidence, it's not there, right? We got how Haru comes up when you look at the Amarna letters. Then you have the Hyksos come up when they depicted them as being Asiatics with a throw stick when you read the Metu Neter. So you have to discern who it is you're talking about and find out where this term Hebrew came from, and if it was a political tool utilized by the people in power to mobilize, organize, and create a nationhood while you're in captivity. See, when you push that aside and I give you the evidence that they used to build this case for their political tool, you can't refute that because it's hard evidence, it's concrete facts. I got a show that's coming up called Concrete Faith, and that's going to be airing at 9 p.m. every Monday. I want y'all to tune in after this debate where I'm going to give all of this work, man. I'm telling you. Because people don't think that because I'm a Hebrew, I just stay in the book. I look at everything before I present information. So what I was saying so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the migration patterns of the people. I'm going to show you the archaeological record in regards to artifacts, potteries, like my brother Ankh likes pottery. I got the pottery shards. I got all of this to show you that there was people that came in, foreign Semites that came in, set up shop, multiplied, that there was actually slaves. I got the recordation of that. And that there was a multiplication of the people there and there was an exodus. The problem is you cannot superimpose theology on history, but if you do, understand the difference between the two and understand why it was being utilized. You understand? I respect Hebrewism because of the spiritual system that's innate there, because again, they were influenced by the Sumerians, by the Canaanites, and by the Kemetians, and they were able to create this ultimate spiritual system that we can use as black people today to liberate ourselves. The problem is when you tend to neglect this and start to use this as a means of bashing the other cultures, when you don't understand that the reason why the Most High dealt with you is for salvation of His people, the way He ordained it for them, because He gave them a responsibility. Just like if we had a family, and Polight has a family, he has an older daughter, right? You have an older daughter. You're not going to give the same responsibility to your older daughter that you're going to give to your 5-year-old, right? What's her name again? I'm sorry. Matt. You're not going to give the same responsibility. So you're going to judge her on a different system because she came from the same home. So if there's one God of all the nations, you're going to still deal with her based on a system, but it's not going to be as strict as the intimate relationship you have with an older child because they're coming into maturity. So when we talk about the Exodus story from the, I would say, Orthodox perspective, okay, I guess they got a shot unless my team got some work. But when you deal with me and I give you this evidence now, and they better hope I don't play this at the debate, but it did this evidence, you're going to see that Exodus did take place, slavery did take place. You're going to see that all of this stuff is there if you take away the theological element for a second and just show people the evidence. And when I'm talking to my brother Polight, this is what the Kemetic community wants us to be. It wants to be very fair in our scholarship, very fair in our anthropology, archaeology. And we can do that and say, hey, you know what? The reason why I subscribe to this book is because it created a spiritual system that we can utilize to mobilize us into a nation as a people today in America. But at the same time, there's literary devices that's entailed into it that if we move it, we can really see the history and we can use archaeology, anthropology to validate that, even if we believe there's a fixed chronology. But again, that in itself is just the Orthodox view. But a lot of non-Orthodox scholars, especially in the black community, say that the chronology is much older because they want to make it themselves and show that Samaria is not older. But again, my team got work and they may show you that Samaria is older, but then that's their argument. So I don't want to say too much of what they believe, but when it comes time for me to put in that work, and I'm not saying this egotistically, I'm not saying because I'm overconfident. I'm saying that when you have facts, they speak for themselves. And our black Hebrew Israelite community, the things that I'm going to reveal and bring out, they haven't touched it before, but I'm going to give it to the masses so that way we can use it as a mean or a measuring stick, where we get the term canon from, to discern what's right, what's wrong, what's fiction, what's false, what's myth, what's legend, and be able to understand these terms and be able to get history and then look at the theological element.
All right, hold up. Polight, man.
I think that's the last.
Turn it up, man, Polight.
That's the last question, right?
No.
You got another one? You don't be running on time. You just...
All right, that's powerful. This is what I told you, Polight. A lot of them is sleeping on Brother DivineProspect. And I'm talking about from the Hebrew community. And I make no disrespect to my brother Zion Lex when I say this. I think they should have gave you some time on the floor, brother. They should have pointed somebody out to deal with the Exodus. Don't run from it. Say, yo, you know what? Brother Divine have a strong point on that. Being that this is the team debate, we need his ass to come from behind the table and do this. Because when they keep you there behind the table, it's really saying, like, I don't really have confidence in my brother that much to really present this. You see, they don't really, I don't think they took the time out to really study your research, brother.
And I have all of the stuff in PowerPoints. I've shared it with them.
What type of Hebrew are you, brother? See? Are you a New Testament Hebrew? Are you a New Testament Hebrew or Old Testament Hebrew? Mm-hmm. Are you a Hebrew that believes in the whole of the book?
All right. Now, there was a question that you stood and asked. He was going to ask, was the Bible tampered with?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you that.
Okay. So you asked what kind of Hebrew is. And see, when you teach objectively, when people have to ask you what's your personal belief, then you know your scholarship speaks for itself.
So that's the same way with Polight, because they be saying, what do you believe?
Don't know what he believes.
So, but what I will say is that I do believe in the almighty power. Because if you look at it from a Semitic perspective, it's the term power, and not like a Eurocentric God concept, but it's the power, the higher power. I am a Messianic Hebrew, and I put that on the record, but my approach to it is much different. This is why people don't know what kind of Hebrew I am, because of the research that I do. And the reason why I created this series called Concrete Faith is because I'm showing people that before you take a theological perspective, which creates differences and controversy, look at the physical concrete evidence to see how these stories came about. And see, when you deal with it from this perspective, it's very difficult for people to argue with you from belief when you present evidence. That's right. Because now it's like, okay, who's interpreting the evidence better? But at least the brother presented some evidence. That's so right. Yes, I'm a Messianic Hebrew. It's very difficult to tell because I'm very objective, because I deal with my Torah only brothers and I deal with my New Testament brothers. But again, I look at the Peshitta. Again, I look at the traditions that state that the original New Testament was written in Hebrew and Aramaic script before we got the second, third hand Greek manuscripts. See, when you deal with manuscripts that don't lie, it tells a much bigger story than what your theology teaches. That's so right. This is why I look at the primary evidence and I use that to determine what my position is, because I'm only going to share my position from that which I can prove or present. That's if right. I don't, I say, you know what, it's my belief, this is what I subscribe to. But ultimately, when I deal with my brothers, I present the evidence and the facts. They can't argue it. And with that, I have a totally different perspective. I have a PowerPoint coming up March 22nd. It's called The Patriarchal Priesthood in the Bible. And the purpose of this is to unify the Torah only and the New Testament, and for us to get along and to understand that there's something inherent in the text that we tend to overlook that can unify us. I also have a future presentation that's coming up this year. It's called The Priesthood of Anu and its influence on the Kemetic and Hebraic cultures. And I want to show our Kemetic brothers and our Hebraic brothers that we have a common ancestor, and that the Most High dealt with them from a particular perspective that's interpreted differently depending on your geographic location and your cultural identity. So the purpose of me doing these things is to unite us as a people, because in order for us to come under RBG, we have to put our theological differences aside, look at the real concrete issues that black people face in our communities today, and say, what can you pull from out of your ideology to invest it abroad to fix our social ills, so that when brothers and sisters come to debate paying money to watch information, when they leave, are they being liberated? When they leave, is debt being cured? When they leave, are they worrying about housing situations and foreclosures? When they leave, are they getting on a better diet? If we don't give this substance to the people after the debate, or let them know that the speakers have services to fix our community and create us as a nation, so we can have leverage to debate and fight and show our oppressors that, listen, we're not going to be downtrodden because we don't need you to come into our personal affairs, because we got this on lock. If we don't give this element to the people after the debate is over, we have failed them. So as Hebrew Israelites, we have to show them this. As Kemetic brothers, we have to show them that we can put it into practical application and fix your social ills. Ask about our services once the debate is over. And once you brothers, because I see on the comments, they're like, yo, this is all information based. Access the services that we provide y'all. Right. And you'll see that that's black liberation that we're doing right there. And we in the same vein as the Black Panthers when they did the school programs, when they did unifying their communities. We're doing the same thing with our ideologies. You just have to ask for the services. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to my brother Polight and let him speak, because again, this is about unification and building at the end of the day.
Well, let me ask you this question, brother Polight.
Yes, sir.
And I asked Daniela this question too, when he came to visit me on 125th Street. And I know you're going to want to respond to this because you did a video talking about they had found some bones. Unc was going crazy about that.
Going crazy.
So now I'm going to ask you,
did you see it, Polite?
What's that?
The lecture I did about the grave sites?
I heard about this.
So let me ask you, Brother Polite.
I was called about this.
Why do you think that the bodies of Jesus and Paul and Moses and Abraham and all the prophets of the Bible, why do you think none of these bones were found? Why do you think none of these corpses was found? Where is they at in the museum? How come they don't have their bodies when you can go back thousands of years before Jesus, before Moses, and you can still see the mummifications of Ramesses II, of Imhotep and stuff like that? Where are the bodies of these quote unquote great men of God? If they were great men. That's the question I'm asking.
They were great men. That was good. That was a good part.
Yeah, you see how you did that, right?
Yeah,
That was great.
great men.
There you go.
That's important.
Where's their bodies at? I asked Brother Daniela this question, and my good brother said because God will not expose. I'm paraphrasing my brother because y'all can go back to the video and see exactly what the brother said.
Yeah, we gonna go
but
to
I'm
the
paraphrasing
video
him, and he said because God will not, so to speak, put his men of God in the line of being desecrated and turning over graves the way that they doing the Kemetic people. God will not expose them to that. So I guess God raised them up to the heavens so that they couldn't be found. So Brother Polite, why do you think these great men, quote unquote, of God have never been found, brother?
They never existed.
Oh man!
Dad!
They never existed.
Go in.
And they can't exist until you produce the evidence that they did. How about that one? Now, stories is one thing, and we can learn a lot from stories, and I'll never take people's stories away from them. Why? You dig what I'm saying? Like, why? No pun intended before you dig. Because we can dig and dig and dig, we ain't going to find those bodies. So, all right, if the bodies show up, there's some validity to the story, perhaps, right? We still got to study the story, and we still got to study the bodies. But as it stands right now, it's just all too convenient for the religious world to have over 3,000 different personalities coming out their book that is missing books. And out of those 3,000 personalities, a little less than 2,000 of them share the same name. For us not to find any of the 3,000 bodies is all too convenient for anybody, for any culture. And what religious people have to do is say, would you give us the same clout? Would you give us the same grace to mention 3,000 plus people to you and not produce anybody? Would you allow that? Because you ain't allowing a lot of things to take place that you think is going wrong. But you speak arrogant and you condemn everybody else. And you present me a book with over 3,000 personalities, many of which are great, just because God got them inside of this plate. But then you don't produce them. And you then make evidence the worst thing that's ever taken place in our community. And I'm going to show you how this conspiracy works. Suddenly now, bodies are evil if they're dead. Don't be around them no more. Suddenly now, we're participating in some form of necromancy because we got evidence that the bodies exist. But guess what? We didn't do the excavations. We didn't pull those bodies out the ground. But I got the right to visit my ancestors. No different than you going to a cemetery and standing on the very ground that your ancestor immediately was buried in. So, as far as the bodies are concerned, what people have to understand when you're talking about religion, they have very sophisticated ways to communicate with the contrivances of this day and time. And the contrivances are the people that are aware of what's going on, but they don't empower the rest of the world to know. Okay? So when you're thinking about the contrivances, one of the things that's embedded into literature, especially when you talk about something called typography, and this is a science or an element in literature where maybe one person actually did exist, right? But that person throughout the course of, like in this particular case, the Bible, may transmigrate into another story, into another manifestation. But you'll see similarities in number components, similarities in circumstances. And this is done to punctuate the depth of God's power, more so than it is done to convey to you that the story is actually true. So you might see this lucky number 12 here. Someone got 12 disciples here. And in another instance, someone has 12 people working for them over here. You might see somebody inside of an organism for 3 days over here. And then you might see another person who died for 3 days over here. And after a while, we start saying, man, the Lord is powerful. It's subconsciously there. It's being embedded into our psychology. So what do we mean by that? What I mean by that is this. Once you've established a certain familiarity with the numbers and the circumstances, by the time they change the name, you already have an inclination towards believing the story. This is called typography. It's a very unique way of conveying a story by using similar number sequences and using similar circumstances, but changing the name. And one of the things that happens at the end result of doing this is that the reader already has an inclination towards believing the new story that came up because it's familiar for some reason. You see, like if you was to study where Mary hid in a cave, you may not know that where Mary hid in the cave is a few feet away from where Moses was there drinking water in the well in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may not really know that these stories, if we were to see the geographical locations of these stories, everybody's hiding in the same damn spot down there. You see what I'm saying? This is a fact. And I can be questioned on it, and I can prove it to you. It's a fact. You know what I'm saying? So, it's typography. So, what I would say is this. I would reduce the 3,000 plus personalities to maybe 8 people that might have existed, and they may have embellished on what they've done. And the story is a recurring theme to reinforce the conviction that they want you to have of God. If we study it from a morality perspective, we can be empowered by a lot of the information. But if we try to take everything in that Bible literal, especially the people, we're going to wind up in chaos and conflict in our deliberations with other people, and we're going to be getting checked. And this is why you have to study sentential calculus. With sentential calculus, it teaches you things like the law of contrapositive, the law of disjunctive inference, the law of implication, the law of double implication reversal, the law of contradiction. So these are different laws in principle that can be deduced mathematically through using characters of language. So for instance, we might say P implies Q. And if P implies Q, then most people say then Q implies P. That's the law of implication, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be true all the time. But then you have P implies Q. And if P implies Q, and Q implies P, then if P implies R, then R must also imply Q. Now, if this is right all the time, that is the law of double implication reversal. I'll give you an example now. If the Knicks beat the Bulls, right? And the Bulls beat the Lakers, most people would believe that the Knicks should be able to beat the Lakers.
Right.
But we know that's not right all the time.
Nah.
It's about chemistry.
And it's other
Exactly.
unknown variables.
Other unknown variables. But now that's the law of implication. But the law of double implication reversal will do this with our logic. If a dog is a mammal and all mammals are warm-blooded, then it's safe to conclude that all dogs are warm-blooded. That's going to be right all the time. All the time is going to be right. So that is how you employ logic from a mathematical perspective. And this is called sentential calculus. When you're in high school, you might get the truth table. But then if you take it a step further, it's sentential calculus, and you can actually pinpoint when someone's contradicting themselves. If they're using two ises, an and an or, all in one sentence, you can actually pinpoint when they're making errors in their logic. This is mathematics.
That's deductive analysis.
You see what I'm saying? So what I'm telling people is, don't get hung up on the stories. I can embrace an Israelite that is honest and forthcoming with scholarship. If you choose to believe, I can embrace your belief system as well. Because what you believe in, I may be believing in at the same rate, but we take caution with belief. But if you believe things will get better for black people, I'm down with that belief. And if you got good reason to believe it's going to get better for black people, then I'm even down more so with your belief. So I concede to the fact that belief is inevitable. Because if I buy a book I gotta believe that it has something in there for me to invest in it in the first place. So I'm not gonna be one to tell you that I don't believe in nothing, and all I deal with is facts. Because belief is inevitable.
Now, there's a degree to be a person.
To be human.
That's what I'm saying.
You understand?
I'm creep like that all the time. You know what I'm saying?
So where people go wrong, in my opinion, is they establish a belief system based on ideas that's circulating within the confines of something that purports to be of God, and that's dangerous for me. I establish belief based on facts. If you are there for me through thick and thin, over and over and over again, and then now I need help. Sonetta says I can help you. You say you can help me. I believe based on facts to trust you more than him because you've been there for me on a number of occasions. Yet a person can believe and still be 100% wrong. He might still be the better route. But I believe in you because it's built and predicated upon a foundation that was erected from the ground on up because of facts. Even in the scriptures, if you go to the New Testament, the word that they're using for belief means conviction of truth or is predicated upon facts. You can see it every time. But then the way people use belief, it sounds so blind.
Same thing with faith.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm down with belief. I'm down with it all. It's what you have me believing in because of what. So when I ask the average Israelite, what's the big thing about the Bible? It's prophecy. It's the only book in the world that talks about our slavery here in America. That's because you see it from that standpoint, because you have turmoil brewing within the confines of your body because you're bitter about slavery. So psychology tells us that your consciousness is going to give you a higher inclination towards the stories that you can relate to most, not the stories you can't relate to. So if you see slavery and you see people being in bondage for several years, it's going to take a certain hold of your mind. You're going to grasp that concept more. You're going to be able to assimilate it better. You're going to be able to digest it better because you can relate to it. And if it's relative, then there's a connection. So now you tell me that the reason I need to believe all the other things by default is because there's a relativity to an occurrence that is taking place in the story. That's not logical. If I'm in traffic and I read a sign that says there's going to be a roadblock or traffic is going to be delayed because of an accident 5 miles from here, and I get 5 miles later and I see it there, and I tell myself, well, you know what? I can't wait till I get out of this traffic, because after this I can get to where I got to go. That is illogical, because we don't know if there's going to be another traffic holdup that has gone unannounced or may happen while I'm en route. So we don't want to jump the gun when we're dealing with the scriptures. Take what you can use for your own edification and move forward.
All right, this is what I like about this discussion we having right here. You don't see none of the brothers disrespecting each other, cutting each other's wisdom off. They sitting back and they being patient. How come we can't be like this when we all come together, brother?
It's security, bro.
That's what it is. So, brother, DivineProspect, I would like for you to expound more on that. How come, the same question I asked him, how come they didn't find any of these great men of God in the Bible, the prophets?
Gotcha. All right, so I like a lot of things that Blight said, and some things I can rightfully disagree with, and that's fine. But what I will say is that what I do is give people a point of reference, right? The purpose of me doing my lecture is to give the people a point of reference. So when people say there's no bodies, there's no bones, there's no tombs, I give them a point of reference to go and research it further, right? And ask the people who make these claims, have you went and done the field work? Have you went and done the primary research to these locations that are located in the text that says where these bodies was at, where these tombs were created? And the thing is that a lot of people don't understand history and what ossuaries are, what sarcophaguses are, because when a culture had a system where they took the bones of those that they loved, they put them in an ossuary or a sarcophagus and they took it with them, right? When you understand that they had these things in their possession up until the point where they were invaded and these things were robbed, and there's historical accounts from the Assyrians and the Babylonians stating that these places were robbed, it makes it very difficult for us to ascertain who these individuals are. We don't have a point of reference in regards to bones, right? We don't have a point of reference, so it's very difficult to ascertain what it is if it is found in great depth. There was no such system as mummification in ancient Israel, so you're not going to find a body like you would Ramses the Great or anybody like that. You're not going to find that. Matter of fact, a lot of cultures in Africa did not have mummification. Some mummification happened naturally, like in the Sahara where it's really hot. If you bury a body in there, it will be preserved in the desert. But what happens is the reason why they started to create mastabas and started to build pyramids is because dogs started getting at it, wild animals starting to get at it. So they wanted to create a system where they securitize the body so that way it won't be defiled. In ancient Israel, the system was much different because after a person died, you'll see in the text where they say, take my bones with you. I do not want to be here, right? Meaning that I don't want to die in this land, but the land that my people is going to be in, that where I want to be buried. Or what they would do a lot of times when you look at a lot of these tombs, and again, I touch on a lot of this in my lecture, and a lot of people went crazy because I did this lecture, but what they don't realize, I'm just giving you a point of reference. Go research for yourself. Go do the groundwork yourself. Don't take the commentary that you read in a book, but if I'm telling you the location is there, go research it, right? Go ask around. Go look for primaries. Take pictures and images, because therefore now you can come back and tell me, well, this don't exist because I was there and I saw that it doesn't exist. You made it up. But these things actually are there. And because I'm very good with biblical archaeology, and I'm not limited to just the Bible. See, the thing is that I talk about tombs from other cultures that the Hebrews were intermingled with. Because you got a lot more grave sites from them than you do from the Hebrews. But then you have to ask yourself, well, why is this the case? Then again, the term Hebrew comes into effect, and you got to be able to define things and make a great understanding. So when you present it scholastically, people won't laugh at your evidence. You understand what I'm saying? So again, there are burial sites. There are graves, there are tombs. Now, are there bones in them? No, because if you look at history, a lot of the bones were taken out or they were robbed when they were taking elements from there. And when the Muslims came in to Palestine, there were a lot of impoverished people that were living in these tomb areas, and they felt it was very superstitious to be in a place where there are bones. So they would get rid of the bones or move them out, and they would live in these rock-cut tombs where a lot of the prophets and patriarchs were buried at. So again, this is all information as a point of reference for people to go back and research and study, and not take what I'm saying literally like, damn, we got all the Bible. What I'm saying is I'm giving you points of reference. Take it, go research, look into it, see what you discover, and then come back and give an objective perspective to say, is there bodies or aren't there bodies? Because I'm trying to be very fair and objective. And I do so because I got to be very careful not to have a lot of fallacies. And this is why I have citations for everything that I present, and I'm not just making it up. I don't just say, well, the Bible said they were buried here, but is there actually a burial site there? And when we look, there is a burial site there, but is there a body there? Or whose body is there? Or does it correlate the Bible, and how so, and at what point in time did it get there? These are all questions you have to ask and ascertain when it comes to assessing evidence. And when you have somebody who's a Hebrew Israelite who's scholastic, I'm going to be very tactful on how I present this to people, because I'm not going to say it's definitive. I will say it's a point of reference. Now you go back and you study for yourself. Right. You understand what I'm saying? So that's just to be fair. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, in all fairness, I'm not saying that this is just the Hebrews, but also you can have disagreements on the Kemetic side as well. They all don't believe in the same thing. Mm-hmm. What you have done was just contradict everything Daniela said. Daniela said God protected the bones and took them somewhere. You said the bones was robbed. So did God protect the bones, or was the bones robbed?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that. No,
this is what the Bible says. 1 minute the Bible says this is good, then this is good. But hold on. Okay. I know you want to
deal with somebody that deals with harmonious dialectic, meaning that you can throw something here and throw something there, and I'm gonna harmonize it now, just so you understand.
Okay, I want you to clear that up, so we won't, so you don't be throwing your brother Daniela under the bus.
I don't do that. And you see, he's doing that. He's doing that because he's throwing a monkey wrench in there. But what I would say is that me and Daniela are saying the same thing. And if you look at my presentation, you'll see that, because I'm asking, is it ma'at for the ancestors to be dug up? Okay, put on display, because remember, before anything went into a museum, it was on the black market. People were making money off of this, and it was not our people, right? Because anytime these white archaeologists will go in, and you can find this on Jonathan's WordPress blog, because he has it up on there, right? You can see that the archaeologists created a science to go in and rob tombs. You see, they went in and robbed bodies, they robbed artifacts, they did all of this in the name of science. But it was an excuse to rob tombs. And now you have the suits up there in museums looking all crazy and shriveled up. And guess what? Black people don't own these museums. How come we're not taking back these museums if our ancestors are there? But we go see them, and Polight made a great example about the cemetery, but I would disagree and say, well, it's one thing to go to the cemetery and see your loved one for free. It's another one to have to pay to a white person whose ancestors that's not. That's a big problem. So if we're gonna brag and say we got the bodies of our ancestors, then how come we don't own that information? How come we don't own these museums? How come we not making petitions to get these ancestors for ourselves instead of letting the Europeans do what they did? Okay. And another thing I touched in my lecture, the mishandling of a lot of evidence that these Europeans did with the bodies, man. I mean, imagine if you had a great-great-grandfather who was a Mason, who built these great architectures, right? And you go to Ancestry.com and you say, wow, you know, my great-great-grandfather's name was so-and-so, so-and-so. And then you ask people around you want to know in the town that he was raised in. They say, oh, yo, you know they got his body and his bones and his artifacts in the museum. You're gonna be like, what? Yeah. And you're going to say, okay, well, who owns this museum? You go there, it's not an indigenous museum. It's a museum that a European has because they want to flaunt and brag and try to claim ownership to the things that your ancestor has done. You will not be happy with that. So for us to be Kemetic brothers and sisters and again, I don't have no problem with seeing this primary evidence. This is great to say, wow, this existed. But again, where is the balance in regards to protecting our ancestors? The Most High, in regards to what Daniela was saying, he did not allow our graves and our bones to be tampered with, to be put in museums. So he's correct on that. The Most High didn't. And I'm going to say this last part. So what I'm saying is that the reason why it's not there, you can't, I mean, some people call it spooky. They say, well, the Most High did it. But if you looked at the Most High can use different elements of people, just like he did in the scriptures, to securitize certain assets that he may have felt, or the people who believed in him may have felt to be very relevant to their culture, to their history, to their ancestors. And this can also be harmonized to what I said as to why the bones are not here today and why our oppressors did not have access to them.
I hear you, brother. That's powerful. Do you believe that on the same side of ancient Kemet, had these bones never been found, like Ramesses, Imhotep, and Akhenaten and them, they would be saying the same thing. Where's the bones at? How come you're talking about they built this? Show proof. Where they at? You see, one thing I can show you is that the ancestors of ancient Kemetic, the Kemetic people, they put it this way. They did it this way because they knew that someday, after all these years, our people will fall asleep and we will forget about them. So that's one of the reasons why they had to mummify them. That's one of the reasons why they had to be dug up again. Even if it was by foreigners, it don't matter. Our people, the world needs to see that big nose and them black lips and that black face. So it doesn't matter to them whether it was foreigners to dig it up and show proof. The Bible says show and prove all things, right? So now, where is the show and proof of Jesus? Where's the show and proof of Moses, of Aaron, of Abraham? He didn't say hide us. He said show and prove our existence. You see, that's what I'm saying. So now because you can't find it. So what I'm saying is the ancestors of the Kemetic world showing and proving our existence.
Okay. So I want to touch on
that's all I'm saying, but I don't want to go back and forth with you.
No.
I know you're a scholar.
Can I just touch on that real quick?
All right, don't tear my ass up now. Let's go ahead
I'm not going to do it. So what I would say is that's great, but you have to look at it in context, Sinetta. Every culture was not as advanced as the ancient Kemetians. Every culture was not entrusted with the sciences and the math and astrology that they had possession of. Because if I go to Africa...
Are you admitting...
Wait.
Hold up. Are you right now admitting... Are you right now admitting that the ancient Kemetic culture was more advanced than all the other cultures that came up behind it?
That's not what I'm saying.
You just said that.
I'm saying the appearance of that is there based on
now you're saying appearance.
You know why? Because I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying.
Yeah, brother.
Because Polight made a good point when he's talking about the recordation. The recordation is there because this is what their culture existed of. Their culture existed of. But if we go back to any ancient civilization that did not have the funding, that did not have the manpower to build a lot of things that we have in ancient Kemet, you're going to have a lack of evidence to say that whoever they claim were their ancestors even existed. And this is with me looking into African cultures and seeing that you have a lot of griots, right? A griot is somebody that contains the story and the elements of their ancestors and the things that happened that don't subscribe to archaeology, and they will even tell you themselves that a lot of the things, the great things that were done were not recorded. So are we saying that they're lying, the griots are lying, that these people didn't exist? Do we give them the same degree of scrutiny that we give to every other culture, that we give to ancient Kemet? I will give ancient Kemet credit that they have a lot of recordation, and that's what I like about the element of the culture. They recorded stuff, right? And this is very, very good because there was great note takers, but everybody in antiquity did not have the same element. Now, again, what I will present is that our culture as Hebrew Israelites, the nation was later. They came later. right? So ancient Kemet predated them in a sense of having architecture and things like that. The ultimate thing that we had was our 2 temples, and they were destroyed, and we have extra biblical evidence that they were destroyed. So if we had any bones that were in there, because ossuaries were supposed to be in the temple, and these things were destroyed, one element is that the Arch of Titus that was created in 85 AD, which is a relic that you can go to Rome and see it today, where they show that they pillaged and took everything out of the temple before they laid siege to it the first time during the first Jewish revolt, and then the second Jewish revolt, which you have the Bar Kokhba revolt, where they laid waste and they destroyed the temple altogether, and they got rid of all the people. So when you have history that's taking place, and you're being displaced from the history, and you're speaking at it from a perspective of how you're comparing every culture to ancient Kemet, which is fine, you have to also look in history, anthropology, and look at the migration patterns of the people, how long they was in existence. The ancient Cometians, they had a civilization for thousands of years. You know what I'm saying? So of course you're going to have a system where you have this stuff established because you've been entrusted with this information. When you have the Hebrew Israelite nation, we have not been around for that long. You know, so we have some contributions. We may have not been able to put our stamps on it, but you have to take that into consideration, because now we got to give the same scrutiny to every ancient civilization that ever existed by the same degree and pedigree that we give to ancient Kemet. And if they don't measure up, then we can say, you know what? Yeah, you know, we go to South Africa, we heard what y'all said, we know about Adam's calendar, but you know what? There's no proof of that. Yo, you guys don't have no great edifices. You guys don't have recordation in regards to the Ebers Papyrus or the Edwin Smith Papyrus in regards to medicine. You guys don't have that, so therefore, you know, we're going to take what you say with a grain of salt.
All right, in closing.
Yeah, in closing, and not take the word of the griots or the people who kept this story orally before they had an opportunity to write it down.
All right, in closing, I want to give you this opportunity to look your brother in the eyes, Brother Polight. Look him in the eyes, talk to him. Let him know what it is that you disagree with any of his scholarship. Either one of y'all would like to go first. Same with you, Polight. Look your brother in the eyes. Let him know any of the any disagreements you have with his scholarship, and then ask him a question. Which one of y'all want to go first?
You can go.
All right.
Age before beauty.
Yes,
He's crazy.
Yeah,
what year was you born? I mean, a month was you born, Polight?
August.
I was born in June. So you know.
yeah, you older.
Yeah, well, just about 2 months, but you know, Shock is a Gemini, right?
Right.
I'm a Gemini too, but I don't be going off like that. But anyway, so Gemini's acting like that, like he's a special kind of Gemini, you know what I'm saying? So, but to talk about what I disagree with Polight, what I will say is that a lot of people give Polight a lot of heat. And this is not to clean nothing up, because
first deal with what you like about him, and then what you disagree with, and then ask him a question.
All right, that makes sense.
That's better.
That's better, you know, because you should always build with commonalities first.
Yes.
Build a bridge before you try to tell somebody what's on your side. So what I would say is that Polight, what he has engineered is a school of thought that is for this generation. He's built upon, and this is something that he was saying a lot of times when you catch him in the street. He said, well, you talk about our ancestors and this, and they were great. Then how come we can't create something new from what they laid? Because what they laid was a blueprint for us to be the new architectures in this society. So what he has done is that he has pioneered a more modernized, modified way by extracting the principles that his ancestors have left behind and employing it in reality that deals with the different things that we face on a day-to-day basis here in America and our diaspora. So I give him 100% credence that he built upon what his ancestors did. Even his master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York, he has mastered a lot of things that he has taught, and he has used that as a means to employ and fix the ills of black people. A lot of people don't know the services that Polight has given the community, and I researched Polight, right? You probably don't know research it. I have his Ndu Asusu book that I ordered, and I'm reading up on his language, looking at the spectral analyzer that he had mentioned earlier, because in order for me to actually oppose somebody, I have to understand their mindset and not draw a straw man. Because if I draw a straw man, then that's a logical fallacy and I automatically get disqualified. So what I would say is that Polight is brilliant in the fact that he has pioneered and engineered something based on the blueprint that was left behind from the ancestors who he kept being told when he was coming to the continuity, they were great, they were great, they were great. And he's like, okay, so where are the great things now? How come we don't have these great things now? And now that we do have these great things, how can we securitize our assets so that the oppressor does not destroy it or take it? And this is why he deals with jurisprudence of the law to show us the provisions that we can employ to securitize the assets that we have amassed as a people, so we can show future generations what we did in this generation and what we have accomplished.
And one more thing to add on, and I'm gonna give it back to you. I'm sorry, because you on to something right now, and the Spirit brought this to me. This is why some of the Nuwabian brothers may have a problem with him, because he have taken what his teacher taught him and See, his teacher don't want him to just be a yes man.
Exactly.
He want him to take the teachers and evolve it and move forward. See, the other brothers that I see, they get stuck in it. Oh, well, Dr. York said, Dr. York said, Dr. York said. No, you got to implement the teachers now and go out and do something greater than what Dr. York. He don't want you to be on the same level. He wants you to now take it and go beyond what I taught you. Go out in the world and implement that shit. Become independent. You know what I'm saying? Create shit. And that's what the Hebrews get upset on. I mean, not the Hebrews, but some of the New Wahabians get jealous because they see the move that he's making and he's like just taking off the teaching. So finish on, brother.
So that's what I'm saying. So that's what I respect about Brother Polight. And again, on that aspect, I don't have a beef because I do the same thing with the Hebrew Israelite ideology. I never had a master teacher groom me. I didn't come from the One West camp. You know, I came into this thing with nothing and say, well, what can I make out of this, right? So that's when I looked at the ideology and they say, hey, I can subscribe to your ideology as long as I can show people what I'm doing to improve the community based on what I believe or what I subscribe to. So that's why I say I give Polight a round of applause for doing this. People don't know about the prison programs that he has. You know, people don't know about the real estate game that he's implementing for the community. You know, and these are some things that I have employed as well. But he's taken what he was taught and he's taken it to another level. What I disagree with, and I'm not going to get too meticulous with it, but what I disagree with are things that are irrelevant. You know, when I say irrelevant means we could just sit back and kick it and say, you know, I disagree with that, Polight. You disagree. But at the end of the day, my question is, are you fixing the social ills of black people, Polight? You know, are you advancing the mindset that we have gods in us, right? Because in Hebrew Israelite ideology, we believe in a higher power, but he has also breathed that power into us. And the scripture says that ye are gods as well. So if we are gods and the likeness and image of our creator, what are we doing? What kingdom, what empire do you have here on earth that's tangible, that can reflect as above, so below? What are you implementing to do this? So like I said, my disagreements with Polight is strictly based on just beliefs, the things that he believes. You know what I'm saying? And he's entitled to that. So that's the thing that I can fight with him. But at the end of the day, I see that he's putting work in the community and exactly what I'm doing with the Hebrew Israelite community to fix the ills of our people. So I can't really say I have any issue. Theologically, of course, I'm going to have theological issues with him. But at the end of the day, I can respect his movement because he's fixing the ills of black people. So I'm going to let Polight go ahead and answer on that.
Same way. Same question, brother.
What I love the most about my brother is the fact that, well, I flip it. I'll do what I don't like first, because I would rather close on a higher note. I'm waiting for the day where he comes over to Kemet. You know what I'm saying? Because
I keep saying
there's a reason why people keep saying Kemet.
Well, you got hard work ahead of you, brother. You just got to work harder, Polight.
There's a reason. That's
it.
He's not even a work in progress. He's already here. I believe, and this is my personal belief, I believe he's where he's at because he needs to be there to do some serious work. It's not to say Kemet is perfect. And when I say that, I'm alluding to the community of people that subscribe to the Kemetic disposition. What I would say is, I believe in every community there are people that embark upon a pioneering venture to reciprocate the tides that many people got acclimated to swimming in, you know, or the current that people got accustomed to being part of the school that swims through their current. And then there's always one fish that's like, yo, let me just see what we just crossed.
What's up that stream?
You know, or we've been traveling this route since I was born, so I never really got to go back myself. So then one day you get the gall to go back when everyone's like, there's no reason to go there. Our ancestors already laid it down. They already gave you the truth. They already gave you the knowledge. Like for me, it was Dr. York already answered that, right? And then I'm looked at from a treasonous type of standpoint when I say, well, I don't agree with everything he says, but it's at my leisure to decide if I ever go public on what I disagree with.
That's being a man.
You know what I'm saying? Because he empowered me with the impetus to want to study in the first place. So it doesn't behoove me, now that I have some knowledge, to now showcase the contrast in what I've learned as it relates to what he's taught me. So in that respect, when I see Brother Divine, I look at somebody who I would have to know without knowing personally. I don't have to be in his life. I know he has to be getting a bit of heat, or quite a bit of heat from the Hebrew Israelite community. I can tell, because he wired differently. And so when I say that, people say, yo, when you coming over to Kemet, Kemet is known or revered for thinking. And I'm not saying the Israelites are not known for thinking. Their aggressive nature circumvents what we perceive as being intellectual. They've taken on this idea of aggression in such ways that when you think of Israelites, you think of aggression first. When you think of Kemetic people, unfortunately, you may not think about aggression, but there's not one temple you could go to. For instance, when you go to any temple, or just about any temple, because I don't know if they're going to find some shit that I don't know about. If you go to the average temple in Kemet, one of the first things you're going to see is the nisu of that temple holding someone by the hair, which is very demeaning, you know what I'm saying? Or on their chariot, thrashing their enemies. This is the first thing they want anyone to see when they come to them, is that aggression. We smart, we wax wise with wisdom, we got all sorts of coffin texts and everything. But the first impression that you have is that these temples are so magnificent, it's intimidating. The second impression you have when you look on the walls, the high walls, it's like, whoa, what the fuck? Oh, they will kill me. They will attack me. They will aggress me. When you look through, it's zooming out. And it's almost like enticing. Let me get in there. But they won't allow you to go in there. You see what I'm saying? So it always sets a mystery like God is in there because it gets smaller and smaller. So when people say come over to Kemet, or when you coming over to Kemet, it's not to say that the Israelites by tradition don't think or don't study. The type of Israelites that have been empowered with the ability to display their viewpoints on media haven't come across quite like you have. There may be more people like you, but most people really look at you and you're setting a certain precedence for Israelites. Now what that does now is breed insecurities in people that's going to be in your community because they want to be acknowledged as wise. And a lot of Israelites will tell you the wisdom of this world ain't shit. Or y'all into wisdom, or y'all into knowledge. You had to hear it before, because it's quite often we hear how wisdom ain't nothing. Gabar was going in, or on that against Shaka. Oh, you want to be like Kemet, like the Gnostics. You want knowledge. The knowledge is foolish. Or Tazariak will tell you, oh, you about wisdom, Polight. You want to read this book and that book and that book. And then this is where the idea comes from that Israelites don't read. You see? So now you come up and you're just making corrections. You know, you like, look, it's not per se Barashit. Or someone comes in and says, Barashit bara Elohim es hashamim va'et ha'let. And they say in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And then you turn around and you tell them, that's not the word create. It's make fat. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, yo, this nigga's nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I have to yield. Right. Because it made absolute sense. I had to yield. So I sat here and I learned something. I'm not afraid to say that. People gonna use it against me. But it happens. How long will you speak? You know what I'm saying? So I sat here and that shit had me, I had a stimulus that took place where I'm like, yo, this not supposed to feel good. He's Israel. You know what I mean? So, you know, what I know, what I don't like is the fact that he calls himself a Hebrew. And I'm gonna tell you why. I think it's a limitation because the connotation that it has. Not because there's something wrong with the culture in general.
And the most important thing is because he's too smart, Polight.
I don't want to say that because I don't want to come off the wrong way. You're too smart to be a Hebrew. I don't want to say that.
I'm going to say that, goddamn.
I am.
Polight. I mean, that's crazy, man.
What I want to say is this, that when he says the word Hebrew, it's almost like I was on a flight with my brother Omar Bashir, Jimmy Cliff's son, reggae legend, and we taking this flight out of town, and whenever we get back into town, they take him to the back, and it's to the point he knows the routine. He's like, yo, they like, you know why we took you back here, right? Because I'm Michael. And contrary, I don't know why people so hype. I leave it on my Facebook and it's in my books. Michael, no, that's my name, right? I'm proud of my name. I know what it means. But what happens is they aware that, or he's aware that his name is going to trigger an alarm for terrorism.
Right.
So he understands that this is just the gift and the curse. Is a nice name, nice attributes. But if you are Omar Bashir traveling into America, black, pale Arab or not, they don't pull you to the side because those two names together might be terrorists.
Right.
You dig? So the connotation and the circumstances around that name during this time, it gives people the misconception or false impression about what you are about. So you call yourself a Hebrew, in my opinion, that's the only issue I got with you, because I love what you do. You know, and I couldn't even find nothing right now to disagree with you on. I have to do the debate and disagree with you. There was something you were saying while we sitting. It's just not worthwhile at this moment. So what I don't like is the fact that you say Hebrew, because that might turn people away from you. And for the longest,
Right.
I never let people know I'm rocking hard with the Kemetic doctrine. But you should be able to see it. You can hear my name. You dig what I'm saying? That my teacher gave me, the Su Amure Senatumre. You can see I wear an eye.
Right.
But I'm like, look, I'm going to do politics and economics because I don't want to turn people away. Then I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I won people over enough. They can entrust that I'm not spooked out,
Yeah.
and I'm not a sensationalist, and I'm not romanticizing on Kemet. So maybe if I give you a perspective and you know I'm about politics and you know I'm about economics, that you can reckon that I may have something to offer you from the Kemetic
Dr.
doctrine.
Divine, I want you to edit that part out. I'm not going to say you're too smart to be a Hebrew.
No doubt, no doubt.
You are smart to be a Hebrew, so I
Yes,
ain't gonna,
no doubt, no
I
doubt.
wanted to say I was crazy.
No doubt. So now,
No, but edit out though.
Okay, I got you.
so
I
now,
just keep that for my record. It don't go online.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
so now, so now he's like, well, my
Just in
record.
case I can go back and say,
Yeah.
I know you said that.
So now with you, and I mean, I'm not like pissed off why he got to call himself a Hebrew. If I had to critique anything that you did, I would say because of your genius and your excellency as far as your ability to deliver and articulate yourself, you're so well learned and so well researched. There's no way when you say I'm a Hebrew that someone's going to be able to conceive how much you know and where you can take them with the knowledge.
Now,
So-
with that being said,
So
you
that's
gotta
what-
go. Now,
Okay.
I want you to hold the
It's
mic.
getting kinda
Keep the
late.
mic.
no doubt.
If Dr. York comes up in this lecture, how would you feel about that? Would you feel disrespected? Would you feel bad about it if they was to come at Dr. York? How would you feel about that?
It would be a recurring dream. I haven't done one lecture with Dr. York hasn't come up. In my personal opinion, I believe he comes up because people are limited on information. The reason why I feel like that is because it'd be one thing to address me and what I'm teaching that day for the debate, but when people are running out of gas, hopefully they can draw people's attention to what many will call smoke and mirror or red herring or straw man argument. And I'm gonna tell you, every debate, there's always good reason for the other side to call on his name. But in actuality, I'm telling you, like, the level of information I'm coming to at this debate, because I know what I'm up against. And what I'm up against is this. There's people on that side of the debate that I believe personally hate me, no matter how much they say they love me. I believe personally they have an affinity with wanting to tear me down. In fact, every debate I do, I always conceive that this is what that other side is about for the most part. But in this particular debate, there's somebody on that side that I feel personally, no matter how much nice things they say to me, hate my guts. I feel it. That's one. Also, I feel on that side of the team that they have someone that's very astute, well learned, and understands the strategy that must be employed in terms of scholarship when it comes to having a debate. So if you combine or you couple those two things, a hatred for a person and wanting to embarrass them, in addition to someone knowing how to facilitate or execute as far as scholarship is concerned, the stakes are extremely high. It's higher than it's ever been before.
Wow.
You dig what I'm saying? So that told
That's
me
interesting.
I gotta go
Step it
somewhere
up.
else with what I do, because I know people like to use the debates as an attempt to embarrass you or hurt your feelings. So I understand when people are going after Dr. York, most times that they do,
It's to hurt your feelings.
hopefully it can hurt my feelings. What I want to explain to my brother here, and this is not to be condescending, and this is for you and Zion Lex particularly, and even Hashar, and even Nasi, I'm well seasoned at this, right? So
Hold on. Say that one more time.
what I want to
This is for that.
what I want to explain to you, particularly because I love you. You my fucking man. You know what I'm saying? Pause. You know what it is. You, the brother Zion Lex, even Nasi, definitely Hashar, that this is a whole different environment. And you may have done debates before, but this type of debating is something totally different.
Yeah.
And what I want to express to you guys is that I'm well seasoned in this, and sometimes ability and facilitation, two different things. And in this type of arena, facilitation can transcend ability. Like in the hip hop industry, them niggas up there that's making all the money ain't always necessarily the most talented, you know, or the most articulate. So in this environment, and this is healthy advice that I'm honestly giving to you, that facility often transcends ability in these environments. And what I'm expressing to you, especially Brother Zion Lex, especially Hashar, and like 85% Tanasi, when I get prepared for these events, I have to work on the contracts amongst you guys and myself. This is every debate that I'm used to. I have to deal with the threat of someone personally attacking me every time they say they're not going to, and be able to have the mental fortitude to deal with it. This is every debate. You dig? Knowing that the video is going to go to thousands of people at a hit. Sometimes it don't hit you until the debate's over and you see how much views is there in the comments, and you realize, and it makes you want to do a post-debate video, and another post-debate video, and another post-debate video. This happens to people all the time. So what I'm saying is, I'm well seasoned. I'm used to writing books for the debate. At minimum one. For Seti's, I did 3, because he said something about plagiarism. I wrote 3 on the spot. So I'm used to writing books for the debate. I'm coming out with a book for this debate called Kemetic Arcana in the Hebrew Dialectic Subterfuge. That's what this book is called. Kemetic Arcana in the Hebrew Dialectic Subterfuge. So I'm releasing a book. I'm working on my PowerPoint presentation. I have to organize the street team. Okay, design the contracts, make sure the budget for the event is all wise, right, and exact. Do promotional videos such as this one, right? Whereas and I still have to be a husband to several women and a father to several children, and still run my business, and I have an organization that's a nationwide and some people out the country. So what I'm saying is, all of this is going on for me amidst of the debate. For many of y'all, not to undermine any responsibilities that you have, many of y'all may not be writing a book, constructing contracts for the debate, putting a street team out there to give out flyers, designing the flyers, checking them through, make sure it's good, having meetings with the other people, the debaters, because of the conflicts that take place every debate amongst the people got to debate, promoting the debate, building with SA, making sure everything's straight, going to the venue, find venues, everything. So what I'm saying is, the very least that y'all can do is have an outstanding PowerPoint presentation, because I'm used to the pressure. Because my book is going to be released no matter what.
Now, let me say this real quick. Because you long-winded. Brother long-winded.
Yeah, it's true. But no one's been cutting no one off today except for you when we speak. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm used to the pressure. You dig what I'm saying? And y'all are new to this. This doesn't mean you're not smart. This doesn't mean you're not capable. I'm telling you guys that at the very least, what y'all can do is have the best presentation you possibly can have. Do not be outshined by a man that's working on a book for the debate, that has to promote for the debate, market for the debate, deal with the street team, have meetings with you guys, have meetings with my own people. And I also have a proficiency exam taking place for New Covenant for people that want employment in the community 2 hours before the debate on the same day. Wow. You dig what I'm saying? And I do this every debate.
That's fair.
Yeah, I seen the footage of one time you had a member that was discussing that.
Yeah, so this is all before the debate, and I still got to know my information and be able to recite it by heart.
All right, the end coming.
You dig what I'm saying? Yeah, so I'm just telling you guys, if y'all think for 1 second that I'm seasoned and that's the biggest disadvantage, it's not the information. Y'all could all be way brighter than me. The biggest disadvantage is I can handle the fucking pressure.
Right.
And I've been through it time and time again.
Now, I want to expound on what Brother Polight was talking about as far as y'all. When I say y'all, I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, I hear you.
When I say the brothers haven't even taken the time to go to the venue, to check out this, to see what was going on, to help promote, that's why I give ISUPK that credit. When we told them where the debate was going to be at, what's the first thing they do? They call us. They kept in contact with us. Yo, brother, I need y'all to see. Can we meet up this day? Can we go out there together, brother? We would like to go and check the
Sound
debate
check,
out.
EQ.
We would like to check out the sound. We would like to come by and set up something.
So
this
don't
is what
complain.
Captain Tazoriak was doing. But see, on this side, it's like no concern. It's like, I don't care about none of that. But then when you get there and you don't like a certain thing, you want to bitch about it. You can't do that.
It was a setup and a conspiracy.
You have the opportunity to come with us. You've been up there with us one time. You're about to go with us up there again. You know, you've been there.
Do it.
Brother Gabal, he's been there. He's coming out. Y'all brothers got to come out, man, and that's all I'm saying. Now, brother, let me ask you this, brother.
Listen.
You was describing the other side as you said, well, I know probably a brother or two brothers on the other side may have this hatred for you.
Yeah.
Are you still going into this debate knowing that you may have hatred on the other side? Are you going in with hate in your heart or with love in your heart despite the hate that's coming at you, to mainly for the sole purpose of teaching the people in the audience and maybe teaching your brothers on the other end?
My emotions at one time used to be a bit convoluted when I did these debates. It was kind of confusing. You couldn't tell if you was really going to war with your brother. You couldn't tell if you could trust your brother. You know, you want to believe he's not going to do the things you say he's not going to do. You go in there, you see he did some of the things he said he wasn't going to do. You go through it a second time and you think that wasn't going to happen. You go through it a third time, you realize it's not going to happen. But I love them all the same, and what I've come to realize is that I have to stay on my path. I can't become less than myself. I have to be proactive, not reactive. And what I mean by that is you can shake up a bottle of water and you can shake up a bottle of soda. And if you open up the soda bottle after you shake it, it's impressed by the shaking so much that the soda starts overflowing, right? And now, when you put the cap back on, there's less liquid in the bottle than it was before, right? So now the soda content has become less than what it was previous to the shake. But the water bottle now, when you shake it up, you can see the bubbles. It's impressed by the shake. When you open the top, the same amount of water stays in there. It was impressed by the shake, but it never became less than itself. You see what I'm saying?
What's your point?
So the point that I'm making is,
no, I'm on the punchline. I want to hear this.
So I gotta be proactive, not reactionary.
Okay.
So the point is, whatever plan I design to execute when I get in the building, I have to stick with it no matter what someone else throws at me.
There you go.
I can't become less than myself.
That's what I want to hear my little brother say.
If I decide to start tearing down another black man, that I'm gonna tell you that's not my intent when I go in there. So if I find myself doing it, then I find myself vulnerable and susceptible to the shake and thereby becoming reactionary, which is against my game plan. So I gotta go in there proactive. I go in there with an agenda, and the only reason that I do debates is because other people are listening. It's not so much about the person that I'm talking to at that very moment. Of course, we will all hope that the people that we're debating will take heed to the information. I pray that they do. And it's my responsibility to do as great a job as possible, that if it's overwhelming for them to concede to the truth today, that perhaps maybe 3-4 years down the line, they can embrace it, whether they give me credit or not. But the goal is to never argue unless you have other people listening. So since there's a debate, and there's going to be hundreds of people in the building listening, it suffices to say that there's a necessity for the debate, because those people could be at movies, they could be at clubs, they could be getting high, they could be drinking, but for whatever reason they've decided to invest in an opportunity to hear us go into our diatribes, and with the potential that the deliberation will somehow edify them in some form, shape, or fashion. So that being the particular case, the responsibility is so high that I can't guarantee my brother something, and I can't guarantee everybody out there that's viewing this. I can speak on my own behalf, and I'm going to have to take this idea out of Shaka's verbiage. You're going to see things that you've never seen before. You're going to see things you've never seen before, and I mean that honestly. I put it on my life. I put it on my life. Word to everything I love. I have to take my scholarship to another level because I understand the energy that's on the other side. We're not dealing with a people that are just merely debating about politics. We're dealing with a people that feel like they're defending their God.
That's right.
And if you're dealing with people who feel like they're defending their God, I don't expect them to come weak.
That's right.
I expect them to get very emotional. I expect them to want to attack me. I expect them to want to tear me down because they will not be able to handle me. Because what they don't know
is that you built for this.
I'm different than what you see on YouTube. You have to be in the heat of the moment to realize what everybody else has to go through when I'm dealing with them. When I'm dealing with people on that stage, Brother Tazariak, after that opening round, he was cussing his ass off. We had to talk to him. He calmed down. He was fucking nuts. After my presentation on the 501c3 and people's response, what the fuck I gotta come here for and describe it? We feeding the homeless, god damn it. He was going crazy. With Malik Zul Shabazz, we need another round. Cause my career is being attacked. God damn it, my career is on the line. It was the happiest day of my mama's life when I got that degree, and this man just trying to take it from me. So what I'm saying is, you know, it's fun, but I don't want no one to think that it's personal. I be having a good time there. That's why I actually be smiling, but I can guarantee you, somebody on that other team, if I'm effective, they're going to be stressed out. And I'm going to tell you now you're going to be stressed out. You can say, don't be stressed out. Polight said you're going to stress me out. Don't be stressed out. Yeah, make that your mantra. Because I'm going to stress you out. First of all, I'm going to stress you out because I'm well seasoned. Second of all, I can articulate myself better than everybody on your team. Only one fucking with me with that is my brother right here. He know how to put the words together and deliver it. He don't even have to think about it because it's actually inside of him.
And really, you think that might be the mistake because he's not up there to stand up.
If I were them, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Yeah. I would have him do the whole debate so it can make sense. If I were them, we can't do that. But if I were them, I would have him do most of all the
this is why Gabar got your Yohannesep. You see what I'm saying? Gabar got your Yohannesep that's gonna give up to give the blow. Because Gabar know that young boy, that young brother, he gonna go in.
He hungry.
I'm telling you.
But listen, Gabar and your Yohannesep,
yeah,
they believe the planet's 10,000 years old. They need some support. So what I'm saying is, I'm going in there to do some work, and I'm gonna guarantee everybody on this camera now. If I don't show you something you've never seen before, several things, stuff your scholars never showed you before, I'm willing to refund every fucking body. I'm telling you that now. I am so proud of what I'm presenting because this is what we are supposed to do.
Scholarship.
We're supposed to bring something to the table, perspectives and evidence, newly found, that makes the wheels start spinning again. I'm going to be presenting evidence that people are going to have to start researching on both sides. Their team is going to have to use my evidence. They have to produce facsimiles of the same to continue research forward. That's what I'm bringing to the debate. Okay. And I got to decide how much of my shit I'm going to copyright and what I'm really going to present for the debate because I really need to do it at a separate time and a separate venue. This is getting good. I'm giving you a satisfaction guarantee. If your product is good, send it back. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're going to love this.
Now, at the same time, my brother Polight, you saying that you guaranteeing that you're going to give them something that they have never seen before.
Facts.
What about the other side, giving you something that you have never seen before?
Let me explain that.
Because I guarantee you, they going to bring something you have never seen before, Polight.
Let me explain
now, hold on. I'm going to brother.
I got to explain one thing to you, though.
Go ahead.
And this is really goes to Nasi, where he says anybody can rebut a claim, right? Absolutely true. But there's a difference between rebuttals and refutation. We refute a claim or rebut a claim. One, in essence, really is more predicated and based on facts, right? So I'm not talking about someone just presenting any old information. I'm talking about quality information. Not quantity, I'm talking about quality. And what I mean by quality is I don't care what response they put on their team. Make sure it is factual. Because what I put up there is going to have everybody in awe. Damn. And on top of it, I'm not even going to be attacking them. I got so much information, I'm actually mad. I don't got a little space
so you're gonna
to
be
pull some nigga shit.
Really? You're going to be teaching, brother.
Yeah, but I still got nigga juice in my blood. Okay. I'm mad I don't got no space for it.
Right.
So launch your attacks, man.
All right, so my brother Divine, we're going to close out because we want to take a walk over there, brother.
Yeah.
Brother Divine.
Yes.
A lot of people, like I interviewed Shaka Utmost yesterday. And Shaka Utmost said, what the hell am I do? What I gotta worry about them damn Hebrews for?
See, that's the wrong.
All they doing is reading the damn Bible. So I told the brother, I said, yo, Shaka, listen, bro. You are about to make a grave mistake. Do it sound like Divine only reads the Bible, brother? I mean, yo, these brothers are reading books that you reading. Just because it got Kemet on it, you think that's like kryptonite to the Hebrews? The Hebrews, I ain't gonna touch it because it's kryptonite. No, they in the book to see what they can use against your ass. And I'm talking about not negative. They might show something that prove their case.
No doubt.
You see? So don't think for 1 minute that these Hebrews are just reading the damn Bible. Speak on that, brother.
Yeah. Let's get it.
So what I would say was that I was sitting here on the couch and I was talking to Shaka, and I was like, yo, I hope you don't think I'm one of those spooky Hebrews. And I said this to him, and I was just saying this to him so that way he could be inclined to know that at least from my perspective, I'm going to give you something solid. Now, because this is not my debate, and I'm mostly playing a supportive role, a lot of the brand new stuff that I would present, I probably won't get the opportunity to give. But I do have one ace up the sleeve that I may give my team that people ain't never seen before. If what you're saying is solid, right? But what I will say is that what people don't realize is that you have some Hebrews that's on point. Like, for example, I love when you dudes go on I'm in Raw Squad and show these books, because I go and buy the books I don't have. And I go and read these books and say, wow, you know what? This is some interesting stuff. I can see what kind of angle they see. They're not really contemplating that some of us are studious. You know what I'm saying?
Right, that's right.
So they don't know that I have works in publication. They don't know that I'm going to speak at universities. Y'all don't know the work that I'm doing because I keep it on the hush, because I want y'all to underestimate me. So when I come out, I can bang y'all with something crazy. But my objective now is just to give it to my team, because, you know, in the conscious community, I'm kind of new in the conscious community. You know what I'm saying? So my thing was just to, you know, to build little by little. So this platform is mostly to support my team that's been in the community for a long time. I'm just playing a background role. But what I will say to you is that if I ever get in a ring with anybody, which I don't know if I'm going to do it now, but if I do, you gonna see some stuff you ain't never seen in your life.
You got the skills to get in the ring. No, I'm saying,
because I got access
next
to
year,
stuff.
his ass gonna be in the ring.
I got access to stuff that nobody in this world has been able to publicize, because
this is what
they're
I'm talking
afraid of the amount of heat that's gonna come upon them and how it's gonna tarnish their career. I don't care about that. See, when people talk about they going hard for the Most High, you gotta prove it. If I'm bringing out information that people getting killed over, and I'm saying, yo, it's a walk in the park, this is information that's going to revolutionize our community, because these are things that are being kept from us. You understand what I'm saying? You got to understand something, right? And this is not a knock to masonry, but a lot of our ancestors who came before us were Masons, because that was the only way for them to really get access to information that the common layman couldn't have as a black person.
That's right.
So what I'm saying is that if you get a brother who's not a Mason and I get the same access to a lot of brothers who are Masonic, that should tell you something, because I didn't have a master teacher. I didn't have nobody to groom me. I didn't even have nobody to point me the way. I came into this strong like, yo, you know what? You know, let me be modest, because if your information does not transform your character so that you can build with a brother, be modest, be humble, say, you know what? Damn, like, that's something good that you put. I learned from that. You know what I'm saying? Or to be able to throw it back at a good teacher, because a good teacher is also a good listener. Because in order for you to rear up a student, you got to see what their concerns are to circumvent it and give them something that's palatable that they can digest and that can get them to move forward. So when it comes to my team got some work. I don't know everything that they got, because again, we're going to surprise each other. I know that I have a little something prepared, but if what he's saying is the truth now, and I'm not doubting Polight, I ain't going to lie, I learned some stuff from his debates. But I will have to say to my brother Polight, because I love my brother, I'm going to say, if you pull out some stuff that nobody ain't seen before, best believe at some point in time, I'm going to bring some work. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm gonna bring some work. So with that being said, I want to say, let's get it. You know, this is gonna be a great debate for everybody.
That's right.
I love everybody on my team. All the Hebrews, like brothers, I build with them. I'm the administrative arm to my team, because I'm trying to get things running. So this is one less thing that he has to worry about. We have to worry about, so we can just focus on the information. And I will say to everybody, if you're coming, there's not gonna be no savagery there. Now, we're going to go hard on each other in regards to information. Nobody's bringing guns. There's not going to be no gang presence.
Stop that.
So stop the savagery.
Well, the gang members will be there, but they be in there to learn.
In a conscious mindset.
They come to learn.
So just like we got some young boys in the Hebrew Israelite community who just came straight off the streets and converted. They're going to be in there, but they coming to learn. So we're not having that attitude, we about to kill each other, we about to draw out guns. we're not doing that with each other. A lot of things are done so that way we can bring momentum into the debate to get you guys interested. Because if we was doing some stuff that was all docile and all, you know, you're my friend, and y'all ain't gonna come to no debate like that. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? When y'all see the battle raps, they be getting more people than us. You think that they soft when they getting at each other? Nah, but we doing this because we know that there's a greater responsibility to the generation that's to come, and we have a responsibility and obligation to leave a legacy behind. So when, in our death, when our great-great-grandchildren go back and say, wow, you know what? Look what Polight did. Or wow, you know what? Look what the Hebrew Israelite brothers did. That's something that we can capitalize on because they made it their own and they did something that was distinct and different than this industry. The conscious community ain't never going to see a debate that what y'all about to see.
Never.
Ever.
We about to do something.
Y'all about to see something, and every debate after this has to be compared to this debate. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying? Every debate after this
it's the epitome
is going to have to look at this debate and say, yo, they gotta be somewhere we gotta stop this, man. So I'm just saying this to let y'all know that we're gonna build at the end of the debate. My Hebrew brothers are gonna go on strong, and again, I'm letting them have the limelight. But don't think for 1 second that when my brother Polight pulls out that information, I'm gonna let him go unscathed. I'm gonna pull out some work. At some point in time, he's gonna be like, damn, Divine, I'm glad I did that because, see, what happens is when you give your best, you can expect it to be peer-reviewed for somebody to take what you did and become better. The reason why I'm better is because I'm interfacing with the Kemetic community. I'm hearing their concerns about Hebrew Israelites. I'm like, you know what? Let me step up to that challenge and let me do something. Whether or not people respect it, whether people like it, the fact is I took a chance to do it because I want to show our brothers that there's somebody that's genuinely concerned about what they're saying and try to at least give them some explanation from their perspective. Yeah. When you do that, you're very fair, you're very easy to work with, and at the same time they say, you know what, brother, even though you have a different ideology, at the end of the day, I see you fixing a community so I can rock with you.
Definitely.
So ultimately, this is the purpose of the debate. We can go intellectually, but at the end is a comradeship that nobody or no thing can eliminate or destroy, and you will see us build afterwards. And again, after this point in history, I'm talking about Black History. This is February, Black History Month. For me, Black History Month is every month, but they designate it as Black History Month, but you're going to see history. My thing, every time Black History Month come out, I say, yo, when can I go back in history and see that some history took place? And on February, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Now we gonna give y'all history. And when you look back at February 2015, y'all gonna think about that debate that was put together. Like, yo, they made history. So I implore everybody after this debate, every month of the year, even every February, do something that's historic. And at the end of the day, after you give the information out, give people a practical means of fixing their social ills so we can have more people support us in this movement. They won't see that we're all just about information, but we're fixing our communities. Polight did a lecture not too long ago. We was talking about what he was doing with New Covenant. And I'm going to give a lecture showing you what I'm doing with Kingdom Harbinger Ministries so you can see that, but from both angles. Even though we may have a theological difference, ideological, at the end of the day, you are benefiting for it because we're giving you services based on the hard work and research and trial and error that do you know dealing with the court system is trial and error? That's not no game, son. Dealing with the real estate, that's trial and error. That we was able to pioneer this and give this to you guys so that when you come to the debate, you don't have to leave out with just your head being big, but actual services that can fix your community and that you can feed your kids with. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Real rap.
Shalom, Hotep, Black Power. I'm going to let Sonetta end it off.
I'm closing out.
And we out.
All right, peace, my brothers. I want y'all to know right after the debate, I don't know the exact date, but I know it's somewhere around February the 23rd. We will get it correct. The ISUPK will be coming in the building. Just to show y'all, see, we still work with them. I'll be working with ISUPK. They doing something at the National Black Theater dealing with integration. You know, well, I was trying to call Zoriak so he could give you more information on that. But it's dealing with integration, have killed us or healed us. What has it done? And this is going on after the debate. So this is going to be a powerful thing that y'all would like to participate in. And I'm going to interview the brother to give y'all some more information on that. All right, so just stand by. It's coming up. It's going to be some speakers in the house. Brother Zoriak will be letting y'all know what's going on. And I want to say peace and Black Power, family.
Peace.
Peace.